Chapter 1492. Qing Longzi's death. Qing Longzi was in an extremely sorry state. He spat out blood, and his chest was dyed red. Qing Longzi's aura was extremely weak, as if he was about to die. Zhuowen was holding the dragon head broadsword in his hand. Outside the 9th Underworld platform, Sapphire Shore, and a large group of cultivators in the Blue Dragon Hall were all in a daze. As for Chao Rong, she squinted her eyes and stared at the huge ice-fire palace under Zhuowen's feet. Well done. Yang Yi leaned against a stone pillar in the plaza with a meaningful smile at the corner of his mouth. He first glanced at the ice and fire palace, then looked at Zhuowen, whose eyes were filled with ice and fire. The smile on his face grew even wider. The ice-fire palace had extremely violent ice and fire energy, especially after Zhuowen learned how to use the ice-fire sacred symbol. The ice and fire energy in the ice-fire palace became even more terrifying. Even Qing Longzi would be suppressed miserably if he was trapped inside. Zhuowen had a lesser success sacred body, and the 7 emotions treasured seal. Qing Longzi, who was suppressed by the ice and fire energy, was naturally no match for Zhuowen. Speaking of which, after Zhuowen merged with the Buddha demon eye, he had also comprehended the laws of the Buddhist and demon clones. The Buddhist clone's law was the karma law, while the demon clone's law was the moksha law. In addition to these 2 laws, the number of laws Zhuowen possessed had already reached as many as 7. Although Zhuowen's cultivation was not as good as Qing Longzi's, he had the sacred body, the 7 emotions treasured seal, and the ice-fire palace's suppression on Qing Longzi. Qing Longzi was defeated by Zhuowen. You want to compete with me for the number 1 spot in 9th Underworld? Zhuowen raised his right hand and lifted the weak Qing Longzi in front of him, then said word by word. Qing Longzi could barely open his eyes. His face was filled with fear. He shook his head and said, No, the number 1 spot in 9th Underworld is yours. I'm not as good as you. Let me go. Little bastard, release Qing Longzi. Sapphire Shore, who had regained his senses, roared angrily. The veins on his forehead bulged, and his expression was ferocious. At the same time, he was somewhat shocked. He also did not expect that Zhuowen's strength was actually so terrifying. Qing Longzi's cultivation had at least reached the 3rd profound saint realm. Coupled with the profound saint artifact, the dragon head broadsword, as well as the power of 3 laws on his body, perhaps even a 4th profound saint realm expert, might not be a match for Qing Longzi. However, in the hands of Zhuowen, they were beaten to such a miserable state. It was truly unbelievable. Don't you know you're very noisy? If you say another word, I'll directly kill Qing Longzi. Zhuowen slightly turned his head and coldly stared at Sapphire Shore. Furthermore, he lifted Qing Longzi and pointed him in the direction of Sapphire Shore. Sapphire Shore's expression froze. Immediately, his face flushed red and almost turned purple. Zhuowen's actions were simply too arrogant. He actually dared to directly provoke him. It was truly too hateful. However, Sapphire Shore did not dare to flare up. After all, Qing Longzi was in the hands of Zhuowen. In addition, the restriction of the 9th Underworld platform had not been opened yet. He simply could not enter the 9th Underworld platform to deal with Zhuowen. Zhuowen, I know you're a smart person. If you let Qing Longzi go, then I promise to give you a chance to live. How about it? Sapphire Shore calmed down and said in a deep voice. Zhuowen smiled slightly. His smile was like a flower, extremely brilliant. Then, he landed on the ground, and threw Qing Longzi to the ground. Qing Longzi fell to the ground, and struggled a few times. It was actually difficult for him to stand up for a while. Didn't you want me to let you go? Kneel on the ground, kowtow to me 3 times, and admit that I, Zhuowen, am the number 1 in the 9th Underworld. Then, I will consider letting you go, Zhuowen said indifferently. Qing Longzi's body trembled. His eyes were filled with hatred as he stared at Zhuowen. Without a doubt, Zhuowen's request was too much. If Qing Longzi really knelt down and kowtowed to Zhuowen 3 times, it would not only be a slap to Qing Longzi's face, but it would also be a slap to the Blue Dragon Hall, the force behind Qing Longzi. Zhuowen, don't go overboard. Sapphire Shore's face was cold. Shut up, Zhuowen said coldly to Sapphire Shore. He did not even look at Sapphire Shore. He just stared at Qing Longzi and said, "If you don't do this, you will die immediately. If you do it and satisfy me, I will consider letting you go." Zhuowen's disregard angered Sapphire Shore. The powerful saint aura in his body almost flowed out uncontrollably. Qing Longzi's face was ugly. His eyes flickered, and he was hesitant. "If you don't do it, then die." Zhuowen waved his hand impatiently. The 9-star 8-trigram spear in his hand drew a mysterious trajectory and swept towards Qing Longzi's forehead. Plop! The moment the 9-star 8-trigram spear was about to pierce Qing Longzi's forehead, Qing Longzi knelt on the ground and kowtowed 3 times. After kowtowing, Qing Longzi pressed his forehead against the ground and did not dare to raise his head. He did not dare to look at the expressions of the other people and the upper echelons of the Blue Dragon Hall. Qing Longzi clenched his fists tightly. Between his dignity and life, he chose life in the end. Hua! Seeing Qing Longzi kowtow 3 times without hesitation, the surrounding cultivators who were paying attention to the 9th Underworld Sky platform were in an uproar. Qing Longzi was the #1 genius of the Blue Dragon Hall. He was also recognized as the #1 expert of the younger generation in the 9th Underworld realm. Now the #1 expert of the younger generation in the 9th Underworld realm was kneeling in front of another young man in front of everyone. This young man was called Zhuowen. Everyone knew that Zhuowen's name would cause huge waves in the 9th Underworld realm after the 9th Underworld convention. Sapphire Shore's face was extremely ugly. Qing Longzi's kowtows were like kowtowing to his heart, causing him to feel a little pain. Zhuowen slowly walked in front of Qing Longzi. He lifted his right foot and stepped on Qing Longzi's head. He looked at Sapphire Shore and said indifferently, "Sapphire Shore, this is the #1 genius that the Blue Dragon Hall has nurtured. His strength is indeed not bad. Is that enough? Qing Longzi has already kowtowed to you 3 times. Are you not going to fulfill your promise?" Sapphire Shore said in a deep voice. "Enough." Zhuowen nodded seriously. The golden veins on his right foot extended, and a majestic power surged out from the bottom of Zhuowen's foot. Qing Longzi was not prepared at all. His head was directly crushed by this majestic power. He was deader than dead. Even his nascent soul did not manage to escape. Hiss! Hiss! Looking at the headless corpse of Qing Longzi, the sound of people sucking in cold air resounded from the surroundings. "Ah! Little bastard, I must kill you." Qing Longzi had already kowtowed 3 times, but you still killed him. Sapphire Shore was stunned for a moment. When he came back to his senses, his eyes were bloodshot, and he let out a beast-like roar. The upper echelons of the Blue Dragon Hall behind Sapphire Shore were all furious like wild beasts. This Zhuowen was too presumptuous, too hateful. Even the leaders of the other secluded realms felt a chill in their hearts when they saw this scene, as if they had fallen into an ice cellar. Zhuowen's ruthlessness made even these saints who had cultivated for hundreds and thousands of years feel a chill. "I said that I would consider sparing Qing Longzi's life. It's just a consideration. I won't definitely let him go," Zhuowen said unhurriedly. His tone almost drove Sapphire Shore crazy. He wanted nothing more than to swallow Zhuowen alive. "Zhuowen, you can't escape. I, Sapphire Shore, will make sure you die miserably." Sapphire Shore shouted angrily. "You must be very angry and helpless, right? Back then, when you targeted me many times and wanted to kill me, did you ever think that you would have such a day? Also, our Ryuka was killed by your Blue Dragon Hall sneak attack. All these years, your Blue Dragon Hall did not even let my Ryuka descendants go. Compared to your Blue Dragon Hall, my way of doing things is already merciful." Zhuowen sneered. The Azure Dragon Palace and the Long clan were old enemies. They had formed a grudge over 10,000 years. This Zhuowen is a descendant of the Ryuka from 10,000 years ago? Chao Rong raised his eyebrows and looked at Zhuowen in surprise. Chao Rong naturally knew about the Ryuka. 10,000 years ago, the Ryuka was extremely powerful. It was a huge force that had produced immortal sage experts. However, most of the elites of the Ryuka, including the patriarch of the Ryuka, participated in the Great War 10,000 years ago. In the end, they suffered heavy losses. The Blue Dragon Hall took advantage of this opportunity to launch a sneak attack on the Ryuka. They killed all the Ryuka descendants, and took over the resources of the Ryuka. After 10,000 years of development, they became the ruler of the eastern land. Many of the surrounding martial artists were surprised. They finally knew why Sapphire Shore was targeting Zhuowen. It turned out that Zhuowen was a descendant of the Ryuka. Whoosh! After Zhuowen died, the saint luck on his body turned into a huge golden light and rushed into the depths of Zhuowen's eyebrows. Suddenly, the number of saint runes between Zhuowen's eyebrows reached 32. The saint aura in Zhuowen's body had reached an unprecedented level. His saint aura was much stronger than that of an ordinary profound sage. Xiao He is about to break out of the cocoon. The moment the golden runes broke through 30, Zhuowen's eyes showed a trace of eagerness. He could clearly feel that the golden cocoon in his sea of consciousness was beating faster and faster. It was as if something was about to come out of it. Zhuowen's aura was also getting stronger and stronger. Zhuowen knew that breaking through to the saint realm was imminent. This little guy has broken through 30 golden runes. Is he finally showing signs of breaking through to the saint realm? Chao Rong narrowed his eyes as he looked at Zhuowen and asked in surprise. Lord Chao Rong, the Nine Nether Conference should be over now, right? I think we should be qualified to enter the Nine Nether platform, right? Sapphire Shore suddenly asked Chao Rong. Chao Rong nodded and said, let's talk about it after I give the 9 keys to the top 9 spots of the Nine Nether Conference. Haha, since Qing Longzi and Gui Sha have fallen, the 9 spots will be moved forward by 2 spots. As soon as these words came out, Sapphire Shore's eyes turned gloomy, but he didn't say anything. Instead, he stared at Zhuowen, gnashing his teeth in anger. In the end, the spots of the Nine Nether Conference were determined. They were Zhuowen, Yang Yi Lu Hantian, Yin Ran Wu Dai Gatha, Jian Mu Long Tian and Yang Yen. Chapter 1493. Sage Tribulation. This is the key to the 9 Netherworld Great Array. With this key, you will be able to activate the 9 Netherworld Great Array and teleport to the Central Plains. Chao Rong waved his sleeve, and 9 golden rays of light flew out and landed in the palms of Zhuowen and the others. Zhuowen took a closer look and discovered a golden shuttle-shaped object lying quietly in his palm. He knew that this was the key that Chao Rong was talking about. After giving out the key, Chao Rong's gaze fell on Zhuowen as he said, "You are Zhuowen, right? To be able to comprehend 5 types of laws, your talent is the best in the Eastern Plains. Thank you for your kindness, Lord Chao Rong." Zhuowen lowered his head and said respectfully, Chao Rong was in existence on the same level as the Burning Heaven sect master, Zhou Tianzong. Furthermore, he had the Primal Chaos Temple as his backer. Even Zhou Tianzong didn't dare to provoke him. Zhuowen naturally did not dare to slight such an existence in the slightest. The other cultivators also looked at Chao Rong. Clearly, they were surprised that Chao Rong would suddenly speak to Zhuowen alone. 32 golden patterns. It seems that you will soon break through to the profound sage realm. It should be within this period of time. I will give you 2 months. If you can successfully pass the sage tribulation and become a profound sage in these 2 months, I will recommend you to the Primal Chaos Temple. How about it? Chao Rong said indifferently. Instantly, a huge commotion broke out around the 9 Netherworld Heaven platform. Countless cultivators went crazy. The faces of Sapphire Shore and the leaders of the other forces were extremely gloomy. They also didn't expect that Chao Rong would intervene at this juncture and want to recommend Zhuowen to the Primal Chaos Temple. Once Zhuowen became a member of the Primal Chaos Temple, it would be difficult for them to do anything to him. Lord Chao Rong, I'm afraid this isn't appropriate. This Zhuowen hasn't become a profound sage yet. If you recommend him to the Primal Chaos Temple, I'm afraid that it will lower the prestige of the Primal Chaos Temple. Right? Sapphire Shore gritted his teeth and said to Chao Rong. Chao Rong stared coldly at Sapphire Shore and said, Do I need you to comment on my decision? Sapphire Shore's expression froze, his gaze uncertain. He cupped his hands and said, This lowly one dares not. If you don't dare, then shut your mouth. Don't be like a fly that buzzes about in front of me. Chao Rong flicked his sleeve and spoke extremely impolitely. Sapphire Shore lowered his head slightly and did not speak, but his eyes were filled with a strong killing intent. Lord Chao Rong plans to recommend Zhuowen to the Chaos Temple. Compared to the gloomy expressions of Sapphire Shore and the rest, the people from Cisco Academy were pleasantly surprised, especially Xiaoyu, who was grinning from ear to ear. Zhuowen was from Aoyuan Peak, and he could be considered half a master to Zhuowen. Seeing Zhuowen's great achievements, he was naturally overjoyed as his master. However, Lord Chaorong also said that he would give Zhuowen 2 months. If he can successfully become a profound sage, and pass the tribulation of a profound sage in these 2 months, then he will recommend him to the Chaos Temple. Yanji was not as optimistic as Xiaoyu. He was a profound sage expert, and knew very well how difficult it was to become a profound sage. Moreover, Zhuowen possessed several laws, and had a powerful armor soul like Xiaohe. Therefore, it was far more difficult for Zhuowen to become a profound sage than ordinary people. I hope that Zhuowen can successfully become a profound sage in these 2 months. Jiang Xian and Wenbai looked at each other and said, Zhuowen had really angered everyone in this 9 Nether conference. Apart from the Divine Nether Realm and the Demon Nether Realm, the other 7 powerful forces of the 9 Nether Realms wanted to kill him. If Zhuowen didn't have the support of the Chaos Temple in the end, he would have been doomed. Zhuowen, this is the biggest concession I can make to you. Do you accept it? Chaorong continued. Zhuowen smiled and said, I accept. Why wouldn't I accept it? Chaorong acted swiftly and decisively. Seeing that Zhuowen had agreed, he arranged for the rest of the people from the 9 Serene Heaven platform to leave, and allowed the eliminated cultivators to return to their respective square platforms. Even the other 8 people who had obtained the key to the 9 Nether Great Array left the 9 Nether Conference under Chaorong's arrangement. In a short while, the huge 9 Nether Sky platform became empty and sparsely populated. You can stay in this square for 2 months. In these 2 months, no one will disturb you. I'm looking forward to your breakthrough to the profound sage realm. Chaorong took a deep look at Zhuowen. Then he and Guning landed on a platform at the top of a stone pillar at the end of the square. 2 months. That should be enough, Zhuowen muttered in a low voice. Then he sat down cross-legged on the ground. The 32 golden lines between his brows were like the stars in the night sky, dazzling and sharp. The golden cocoon suspended in Zhuowen's sea of consciousness shone with a dazzling golden light. The beating on the surface of the golden cocoon was much faster than before. Zhuowen's consciousness sank into his sea of consciousness and landed beside the golden cocoon. He reached out his right hand and placed it on the surface of the cocoon. Bzzd. Golden lightning filled the air, causing Zhuowen to take a few steps back. This Xiaohe dog is at the most critical moment of his breakthrough. Even if you want to call him, it's useless. You can only wait for him to break out of the cocoon. Cheng Huang stood on the back of the divine turtle in the depths of Zhuowen's sea of consciousness and slowly flew over. He looked at Zhuowen and said indifferently, Is 2 months enough? Zhuowen asked solemnly, I'm not sure about that. You can only wait for now. Cheng Huang shook his head and continued, Your Saint Tribulation will probably be very terrifying. Be careful when you break through to the profound sage realm. Hearing this, Zhuowen's heart trembled. He nodded seriously. If even Cheng Huang said so, his Saint Tribulation would probably be extraordinary. Then I'll wait for 2 months. Thinking of this, Zhuowen's consciousness sat cross-legged in front of the golden cocoon. He knew that this matter could not be rushed. While Zhuowen sat cross-legged in the square and prepared to break through to the profound sage realm, Sapphire Shore and the others had extremely ugly expressions. Palace Master Qing, what should we do? Lord Chaorong actually wants to recommend Zhuowen to the Chaos Temple. The Imperial Exterminator of the League of Assassins frowned and said unwillingly, The Imperial Exterminator is right. Once Zhuowen successfully breaks through to the profound sage realm, with the 5 types of laws he has, I'm afraid it'll be difficult for us to kill him. With Chaorong, we won't have a chance to kill him, the Desolate Island Master said coldly. The 100 Flowers Court Master, by Meisheng, said in a low voice, What we're most worried about now is not that. Instead, we're worried about his talent. Once he breaks through to the profound sage realm and enters the Chaos Temple, his cultivation will definitely improve by leaps and bounds. When he comes out of the Chaos Temple, He'll definitely ascend to the 9th netherworld realm. At that time, we'll be in trouble. This guy must die. We must pay any price to let him die on the 9th netherworld sky platform. The Saint Martial Sect Master, Wu Ho, said with a murderous look in his eyes. The leaders of the 6 forces came to an agreement. They did not plan to let Zhuowen go. They wanted to kill Zhuowen on the 9th netherworld sky platform. Therefore, the 6 of them turned their heads and looked at Sapphire Shore. Sapphire Shore was a heavenly saint elite, and also the strongest elite in the 9th netherworld realm. They knew that he must have some plans. Sapphire Shore narrowed his eyes and said coldly, "This guy must die. However, I still need a month's time. If he doesn't break through to the profound sage realm in a month's time, I'll find a way to break the 9th netherworld sky platform's seal and hold Chaorong back. You guys kill Zhuowen, that little bastard." Hearing that, the 6 of them were stunned. The seal on the 9th netherworld sky platform was set up by Chaorong himself. Although Sapphire Shore was a heavenly saint elite, he was only at the Yin Sky Saint realm. On the other hand, Chaorong was already at the Yang Sky Saint realm. Even if Sapphire Shore wanted to break the seal, it would not be easy for him to hold Chaorong back. The 6 of you don't hesitate. I've already broken through and reached the Yang Sky Saint realm. The seal on the 9th netherworld sky platform can't stop me. While the 6 of them were hesitating, Sapphire Shore's voice rang in their minds. Obviously, Sapphire Shore was secretly sending a message to the 6 of them. The 6 of them narrowed their eyes and looked at each other. They did not expect Sapphire Shore to break through to the Yang Sky Saint realm. If that was the case, Sapphire Shore could compete with Chaorong. Moreover, the 6 of them also remembered the foundation of the Blue Dragon Hall. It was passed down from the Ryuka 10,000 years ago. The Blue Dragon Hall should not be this weak. If the Blue Dragon Hall really wanted to eliminate Zhuowen, they might really be able to do it. If we let Zhuowen go now, there will be endless trouble in the future. It will be a disaster for us. The Chaos Temple can nurture him into an extremely terrifying existence. You'd better not hesitate anymore. Sapphire Shore continued to send a message. His words revealed the great threat of Zhuowen. The 6 of them looked at each other and nodded in the end. If Chaorong did not plan to recommend Zhuowen to the Chaos Temple, Zhuowen would not be such a big threat. However, Chaorong had taken a liking to Zhuowen and had the intention of protecting Zhuowen. How could the 6 of them not feel a sense of urgency? Then let's wait for a month. I hope Hall Master Qing can handle this matter properly. The 6 of them nodded. They did not have much suspicion towards Sapphire Shore. After all, the Blue Dragon Hall was the strongest force in the 9 netherworld realm. It had a deep foundation and was also extremely mysterious. In addition to the feud between the Blue Dragon Hall and the Ryuka, Sapphire Shore's desire to kill Zhuowen was definitely much heavier than theirs. Time passed slowly, but the atmosphere in the 9 netherworld platform became more and more subtle. Especially the other martial artists in the 9 netherworld realm. Although they were not strong, they could feel the subtle atmosphere. Zhuowen had a celestial saint artifact, and everyone in the 9 netherworld realm had the right to kill him. However, Chaorong had taken a liking to him and wanted to recommend him to the Chaos Temple. Sapphire Shore and the others had the intention of killing Zhuowen. Everyone wanted to know what Sapphire Shore and the others would do. Could it be that they were going to wait for Zhuowen to break through to the Saint Realm and be openly brought back to the Central Plains by Chaorong? Sizzle. A month had finally passed. Zhuowen, who was sitting cross-legged in the middle of the plaza, had a terrifying saint aura around him. It was much more powerful than before, and the surface of his body was emitting a dazzling golden light. I'm afraid that Zhuowen is really going to break through to the Saint Realm. Looking at the terrifying saint aura on Zhuowen's body, many people were surprised and expectant. Zhuowen had comprehended 5 types of laws by himself. The commotion caused when he broke through to the Saint Realm would definitely be terrifying. Everyone wanted to see what kind of tribulation Zhuowen would face. Chapter 1494. 18 Lightning Tribulations. Boom. 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 Suddenly, Terrifying dark clouds began to gather in the sky. Dense lightning spread through the clouds, as if they contained countless lightning snakes. At the end of the plaza, on the platform at the top of the stone pillars, Chao Rong slowly stood up. His gaze fell on the lightning tribulation in the sky with a solemn expression. This child's tribulation is about to descend, Chao Rong muttered softly. This lightning tribulation is so terrifying. Guning stood behind Chao Rong with a solemn expression. Although the lightning tribulation hadn't started yet, he could feel that it would be extraordinary from the lightning brewing in the tribulation clouds. Do you think the tribulation of a fellow who needs 32 golden patterns to break through will be simple? Chao Rong said with a smirk. Guning nodded in understanding. This Zhuowen was indeed not simple. Not only did he have 5 types of laws, but he also had 32 golden patterns, yet he still hadn't broken through to the sage realm. This was enough to show that this child was a freak. It wasn't just Chao Rong and Guning. Countless cultivators who were paying attention to Zhuowen on the 9th underworld platform all looked at the dark clouds in the sky. Tribulation clouds. This Zhuowen is probably going to break through to the sage realm. This is Zhuowen's tribulation. What a terrifying heavenly might. This child's tribulation will definitely be extraordinary. When everyone felt the terrifying heavenly might leaking from the tribulation clouds, their hearts couldn't help but tremble. This was a natural reaction when facing a superior. Hall Master Qing. At this moment, Yiksha Hai, Eternal Night Underworld King, Imperial Killer of the League of Assassins, by Mei Sheng of the 100 Flowers Park, Undying Old Monster of the Undying Sacred Altar, Wu Ho of the Saint Martial Sect, and Desolate Island Desert all gathered their gazes on Sapphire Shore. The 6 of them were a little anxious. In just a month, Zhuowen had already touched the threshold of the profound sage realm. Now, he had even attracted the tribulation of the sage realm. Once Zhuowen passed this tribulation, he would become a sage. At that time, his battle strength would be unparalleled. Sapphire Shore raised his head slightly. His deep gaze landed on the depths of the 9 underworlds heaven as he murmured, "Soon. Just wait, it's about to begin." Looking at Sapphire Shore's appearance, the 6 of them looked at each other in confusion. When they sensed that the Sapphire Shore before them seemed to be waiting for something, the 6 of them became suspicious. Rumble! A bolt of lightning as thick as a bucket struck down from the tribulation clouds. It cut through the void and was dazzling to the eye. This bolt of lightning was extremely terrifying. Everywhere it passed, space collapsed and formed countless black voids, causing it to seem extremely strange. If an ordinary martial artist was struck by this bolt of lightning, they would probably not be able to withstand it for too long, and would be turned into dust. I wonder if this Zhuowen can withstand this lightning. Everyone's eyes fell on Zhuowen, all of them revealing looks of anticipation. After all, the first bolt of lightning was already so terrifying. According to the nature of the tribulation, its power would definitely become more and more terrifying. This is the 18th thunder tribulation. The tribulation clouds will brew 18 bolts of heavenly lightning, each more terrifying than the previous one. This should be the most ordinary tribulation of the sage realm. Chao Rong narrowed his eyes, revealing a puzzled look. The 18th thunder tribulation was the most ordinary tribulation of the sage realm. Only those half-sages who had comprehended the most ordinary laws would usually face this kind of ordinary tribulation of the sage realm. However, Zhuowen was not an ordinary half-sage. This guy was a monstrous genius who had comprehended 5 kinds of laws. Now that such an ordinary tribulation of the sage realm had descended, it was really shocking. Not only Chao Rong, but the surrounding martial artists also revealed puzzled looks. Obviously, some of them did not quite understand Zhuowen's tribulation of the sage realm. The 18th thunder tribulation. Zhuowen raised his head and stomped his foot. A terrifying force spread from the bottom of his feet. Immediately, the ground beneath his feet crumbled inch by inch. Zhuowen shot towards the sky like an arrow that had been released from a bow. Rumble! The bucket-like thunderbolt heavily blasted Zhuowen's body. Countless electric sparks spread from Zhuowen's head to his feet, flashing constantly. He looked like the god of thunder. The great Tao indestructible divine body's main purpose is to temper. There is an ancient saying that a sword's edge must be tempered. A real sword should be tempered thousands of times to become a real sharp sword that can cut through iron like mud. This is the principle behind the myriad Tao immortal divine body. The divine body is like a sword. If you really want to improve it, you have to go through a lot of tempering. The best furnace to temper the divine body is the thunder tribulation, and the sage tribulation is undoubtedly the best medium to temper the divine body. After resisting the first thunder tribulation of the 18 thunder tribulations with his physical body, Zhuowen turned his head and felt indescribably comfortable. Moreover, he faintly felt that after being tempered by the thunderbolt, the great Tao indestructible divine body in his body had sped up, making the power of his divine body stronger. This guy's physical body is so terrifying. No wonder his performance in the third stage of the 9 Underworld Conference was so outstanding and terrifying. Zhuowen's action of resisting the first thunder tribulation with his physical body caused an uproar among many people. Although the 18 thunder tribulations were the most common sage tribulation, each thunder tribulation was extremely terrifying. If an ordinary half-saint had resisted the thunder tribulation like Zhuowen, he would have been turned into ashes. At the same time, many people recalled Zhuowen's various performances in the world of yellow fog, and they felt somewhat relieved. The world of yellow fog had restrictive spells. Original energy, mind power, and the power of law could not even be opened by spiritual rings. However, the suppression of the restrictive spell on the body was not very obvious. Zhuowen's body was so strong that his starting point in the world of yellow fog was much higher than that of others. It was no wonder that he had the last laugh. Boom, boom, boom. Next, 9 terrifying thunderbolts descended from the tribulation clouds in a row, each more terrifying than the previous one. However, Zhuowen still used his physical body to receive these terrifying lightning bolts. Moreover, what was shocking was that Zhuowen's physical body didn't collapse or become charred because of the lightning tribulation. Instead, it emitted a sparkling and translucent color. Some sharp-minded people could even find that after being tempered by the first 10 thunderbolts, the aura of Zhuowen's body was even more terrifying than before. It seems that this kid is using the thunder tribulation to temper his body. Chao Rong stood far away on the platform, his eyes falling on Zhuowen from beginning to end. Especially after observing that Zhuowen's physical aura had strengthened, he immediately thought of Zhuowen's purpose. I don't know what kind of body tempering secret technique this kid has cultivated. It's actually so magical. If I'm not wrong, this kid's physical body is already comparable to that of an ordinary profound sage. The strength of Zhuowen's physical body had even shocked Chao Rong. Boom, boom. Next, the remaining 8 thunder tribulations of the 18 thunder tribulations continuously descended from the sky. Zhuowen relied on the power of his saint body and withstood the remaining 8 thunder tribulations one by one. It was worth mentioning that the power of the 18th thunder tribulation of the 18 thunder tribulations was indeed extremely terrifying. The 18th thunder tribulation was the dragon transformation thunder tribulation. Countless thunderbolts condensed in the tribulation clouds and turned into a thunder dragon that swooped down from the clouds. Its power was so powerful that even a void profound sage realm sage would not dare to compete with it. However, Zhuowen still relied on his saint body to withstand the dragon transformation thunder tribulation. Moreover, the dragon transformation thunder tribulation's tempering effect on him was the best among the 18 thunder tribulations. He withstood the 18 thunder tribulations so easily. Looking at Zhuowen, who had passed the dragon transformation thunder tribulation, everyone was surprised. The sage tribulation, which was feared by everyone, was actually passed by Zhuowen so easily. It's over just like that? Chao Rong frowned slightly. Even he was a little surprised that Zhuowen's sage tribulation was actually so simple. No, this child's sage tribulation is not so simple because the tribulation clouds have not dispersed yet. Guning, who was beside Chao Rong, suddenly exclaimed. Chao Rong's gaze focused as he stared at the tribulation clouds above Zhuowen. He said in a low voice, "If I'm not wrong, this is the tribulation of tribulations. This is an extremely rare sage tribulation." Tribulation of tribulations? Guning was shocked. He naturally knew about the tribulation of tribulations. Generally, the tribulation of tribulations was divided into external and internal tribulations. Among them, the external tribulations were more ordinary thunder tribulations. As for the tribulation of tribulations, the true tribulation was contained within the internal tribulations. The internal tribulations contained world-shaking disasters, and the thunder tribulations contained within would definitely be unexpected. The 18 thunder tribulations just now should be an external tribulation. I wonder what kind of sage tribulation is the internal tribulation of the tribulation of tribulations this time? Chao Rong muttered in a low voice. At this moment, not only did Chao Rong discover the strangeness of the tribulation clouds, but the others on the 9th Underworld Heaven platform also noticed the abnormality, because the tribulation clouds in the sky did not dissipate after Zhuan passed the 18 thunder tribulations. It's the tribulation of tribulations. Finally, someone who knew what was good for him exclaimed in shock. Then, there was an uproar in the surroundings as people discussed animatedly. The tribulation of tribulations. Generally, the internal tribulations are extremely terrifying and almost destroy the world. I'm afraid this kid is going to suffer. Sapphire Shore's eyes flickered, revealing a trace of hesitation. The time was very ripe now, and the hidden hand that he had set up could already take action. However, he was very afraid of Chao Rong. After all, Chao Rong had the Chaos Temple behind him. If there were any changes to the plan, then his Blue Dragon Hall would probably go down in infamy in the 9th Underworld Realm for 10,000 years, or even be removed because of this. In Sapphire Shore's opinion, the best outcome would be for Zhuan to fall in the internal tribulation. Then Zhuan, this variable, would not be a threat. Once Chao Rong left the eastern lands, everything would be foolproof if he carried out the plan, and his Blue Dragon Hall would definitely become the true ruler of the 9th Underworld Realm, ruling over the life and death of the other underworld realms. The leaders of the other 6 underworld realms also calmed down and coldly looked at the tribulation clouds that were still brewing. Right now, their thoughts were similar to Sapphire Shore's. They were also waiting for the internal tribulation. If Zhuan died in the internal tribulation, that would be the best outcome. Of course, if this kid showed any signs of passing the internal tribulation, they would use thunderous methods and attack together to eliminate Zhuan, this future threat. Chapter 1495. 9 Sun Lightning Tribulation Boom. 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 The tribulation clouds that had calmed down suddenly let out ear-piercing explosions. Soon after, everyone was shocked to discover that the tribulation clouds were emitting dazzling golden light. The golden light constantly surged and flashed within the black tribulation clouds, forming bolts of golden lightning. Boom! The golden lightning became denser and denser. Eventually, the countless dark clouds in the center of the tribulation clouds began to rotate clockwise, forming a violent vortex. At the center of the vortex, the dazzling golden light stimulated everyone's eyes. Moreover, the golden light was growing larger and brighter. Finally, when the golden light finally appeared in front of everyone's eyes, they were shocked to discover that the owner of the golden light was a giant golden sun that was several thousand feet wide. The surface of this golden sun was surging with terrifyingly hot magma. If one were to look closely, they would see that the magma was formed by golden lightning. Because the golden lightning was too small and densely packed, if one didn't look closely, they would think that it was flowing golden lava. Scorching sun lightning tribulation? Looking at the enormous golden sun formed by countless golden lightning, Chao Rong's eyes narrowed, and she couldn't help but exclaim. Not only Chao Rong, but even Guning, who was beside her, had a serious expression. The scorching sun lightning tribulation was formed by countless golden lightning. The terrifying sun was completely formed by tiny golden lightning. Its power was so terrifying that it could directly kill a void profound saint. Even a nirvana profound saint in the second mystic would be in a difficult situation under this scorching sun lightning tribulation. This saint tribulation was indeed terrifying. It's actually the scorching sun lightning tribulation? Yanji, Lu Hantian, and the others stood on the square platform of the divine specter realm with worried expressions. The scorching sun lightning tribulation was a terrifying tribulation among the saint tribulations. The scorching sun lightning tribulation shouldn't be able to do anything to Zhuowen. After all, this kid defeated Qing Longzi. Why would he be afraid of a mere scorching sun lightning tribulation? Yang Yi lazily said. His drowsy eyes fell on the tribulation clouds above Zhuowen's head, and there was a hint of thought-provoking in his eyes. Jianmu stood beside Yang Yi. The 9 golden lines between his brows were still shining. Even now, he still hadn't digested the golden lines between his brows. It was as if he was waiting for something. Yang Yi is right. Although Zhuowen has yet to become a sage, he already has the strength of a profound sage. He should be able to survive the burning sun thunder tribulation. Yanji nodded in agreement. Lu Hantian, Wu Dai, and the others were worried, but they knew that Yang Yi was telling the truth. After all, Zhuowen's battle prowess had already been completely revealed earlier. Even an expert at the profound glimpse saint stage like Qing Longzi wasn't his match. Logically speaking, the scorching sun lightning tribulation should indeed be unable to do anything to Zhuowen. Boom! Just when everyone thought that Zhuowen's internal tribulation was the scorching sun thunder tribulation, the tribulation clouds in the sky became denser and denser, almost covering the entire 9 nether heaven. Then under everyone's shocked gazes, 8 huge whirlpools appeared on the surface of the tribulation clouds. A 10,000-foot large golden sun descended from each vortex. Including the golden sun that had appeared earlier, there were a total of 9 dazzling golden suns below the tribulation clouds. This isn't the scorching sun thunder tribulation, but the 9 suns thunder tribulation, which is even more terrifying than the scorching sun thunder tribulation. Chao Rong was finally moved. His gaze was as if he had seen a ghost. The scorching sun thunder tribulation was already extremely rare. But now, the 9 suns thunder tribulation, which was even more powerful than the scorching sun thunder tribulation, had descended. As the name implied, the 9 suns thunder tribulation was a terrifying tribulation, formed by 9 scorching sun golden thunder tribulations. A scorching sun golden thunder tribulations was enough to kill an ordinary profound sage, and the 9 suns thunder tribulation could already kill a peak profound sage. Even a Heavenine sage who had just entered the Heaven Sage realm wouldn't dare to face a terrifying tribulation like the 9 suns thunder tribulation. This kid is dead for sure. Chao Rong came back to his senses and stared at the figure sitting cross-legged in the middle of the square with a complicated gaze. If it was just the scorching sun thunder tribulation, perhaps Zhuowen would be able to pass it smoothly. However, the tribulation that had appeared now was the higher level 9 suns thunder tribulation. In Chao Rong's view, even if Zhuowen's talent was extraordinary, it was still impossible for him to pass the 9 suns thunder tribulation. Haha, the heavens are really helping me. It's actually the 9 suns thunder tribulation. This kid has really suffered the wrath of the heavens. He's dead for sure. Sapphire Shore raised his head and laughed, his eyes full of joy. Even he didn't expect that what Zhuowen was going to pass was an extremely terrifying tribulation, like the 9 suns thunder tribulation. 9 was the extreme number, and any tribulation that was linked to 9 was extremely terrifying. Not far from Sapphire Shore, Wu Ho, Undying Old Monster, and the other masters of the 6 major forces also let out a sigh of relief. Although Zhuowen had yet to enter the Saint Realm, he was still a great threat to them. They all wanted to get rid of him as soon as possible. If it wasn't for the restrictions of the 9th Underworld Sky Platform, they would have already rushed in and torn Zhuowen into pieces. But now that the 9 suns thunder tribulation had appeared, they all relaxed because they knew that under such a tribulation, Zhuowen was dead for sure. 9 suns thunder tribulation. How can this Zhuowen saint tribulation be so terrifying? This is the rhythm of being punished by the heavens. Even the heavens don't want to tolerate him. The surrounding martial artists all revealed looks of astonishment, and an uproar overflowed in all directions like an avalanche. Creak! Yanji clenched his fists as his eyes widened in disbelief. Even the indifferent Yang Yi's face froze as his eyes slowly narrowed. Nine Suns Thunder Tribulation this? What should we do? We have to help Zhuowen. Lu Hantian said in a panic. Yan Ji took a deep breath and said in a deep voice. Right now, we can only wait and see. After all, the Saint Tribulation is Zhuowen's own. We outsiders can't interfere at all. Once we interfere, I'm afraid all of you will suffer. Hearing this, Lu Hantian frowned slightly. He had also undergone the Saint Tribulation before, and knew that this was the tribulation of the person undergoing the tribulation. No one else could interfere at all. Once they interfered, it would probably increase the power of the Saint Tribulation. Under the gazes of everyone, the Nine Suns Thunder Tribulation under the tribulation clouds began to slowly descend, gradually approaching the ninth underworld sky platform. 9,000 feet long blazing golden thunder tribulations were currently revolving in the form of a ring. Countless golden thunder tribulations were constantly exploding, as if even space was about to explode and be annihilated into powder. Even the many martial warriors who were far away from the ninth underworld sky platform could feel the terrifying heavenly might emitted by the Nine Suns Thunder Tribulation. It was an aura of destruction, the smell of death. Lord Chaorong, should we temporarily avoid the danger? As the 9 blazing suns approached, Guning, who was standing beside Chaorong, surged with powerful immortal qi, barely resisting the pressure of the 9 suns thunder tribulation. At this moment, Saint Qi surged around Chaorong's body, but he did not feel anything wrong. After all, he was a saint of the Yang Sky Sacred Realm, and his strength was much stronger than a profound saint master like Guning. Even if Chaorong faced the 9 suns thunder tribulation head-on, he would probably not suffer much damage. Leave the 9th underworld sky platform first. I'll stay here. I want to see if Zhuowen can survive the 9 suns thunder tribulation. If he can, I'll immediately write a recommendation letter. Chaorong's eyes shone brightly as he stared at the figure still sitting cross-legged in the square. There was a thought-provoking look in his eyes. 9 suns thunder tribulation? Zhuowen suddenly opened his eyes. In the depths of his spiritual sea, cracks began to appear on the surface of the golden cocoon. Zhuowen, after surviving the 9 suns thunder tribulation, this Xiaohei dog will be able to completely break out of the cocoon. At that time, it will reveal the true power of the great abyss saint dragon. In Zhuowen's spiritual sea, Cheng Huang was guarding the golden cocoon as it spoke softly to Zhuowen. 4 kill sword formation. Zhuowen did not dare to be negligent and immediately summoned the 4 kill sword formation. At the same time, he reached out with his right hand, and the 9-star 8 trigrams spear appeared in his palm. At the same time, golden light burst out from his body as he raised the power of his saint body to the extreme. The surface of his body was covered with dense golden veins. After doing all this, Zhuowen used the 7 emotions precious seal to raise his battle strength to another level. Ghost Wheel Daytime Golden Wheel Dragon Head Saber come out. After doing all this, Zhuowen still felt that it was not safe. With a wave of his right hand, he summoned the profound saint artifacts that he had snatched from Guisha, Shuizhe and Qinglongzi. Although Zhuowen had not completely refined these 3 profound saint artifacts, he could use his saint energy to arrange them around his body to form a saint artifact defense. Seeing the 3 profound saint artifacts, the undying old monster, Huang Mo, and Sapphire Shore's faces turned gloomy. Obviously, Zhuowen taking out these 3 profound saint artifacts was a slap in the face to their 3 forces. It reminded them of Shuizhe, Guisha, and Qinglongzi who had been killed by Zhuowen. The 9 suns thunder tribulation has 9 blazing sun golden thunderbolts. From the 1st to the 9th sun, each sun is more terrifying than the last. I wonder how many suns this Zhuowen will be able to withstand. Chaorong observed with great interest. Whoosh! As soon as Chaorong's voice fell, the first blazing sun golden thunderbolt fell from the sky at an extremely fast speed. Wherever it passed, golden thunderbolts exploded and stretched across the sky like a long golden thunderbolt bridge. Boom! Zhuowen's eyes narrowed slightly. With a stomp of his feet, the power of his saint body exploded. The entire 9 nether sky platform trembled, causing many martial artists to exclaim in shock. They were shocked by Zhuowen's physical strength. Whoosh! Zhuowen shot towards the first sun like an arrow that had left the bow. In front of the 1,000-foot blazing sun golden thunderbolt, Zhuowen's figure was as small as an ant. However, he was not afraid and threw out a punch. Boom! This punch carried the power of 1,000 caddies. When the punch was thrown out, the void within 10,000 feet of the blazing sun golden thunderbolt collapsed inch by inch, forming a black ring-shaped collapse. Bang! 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 Under the power of the saint body and the void law, the blazing sun golden thunderbolt was directly annihilated by the collapse of the void. He actually broke the first sun so easily. This Zhuowen is not bad. Chao Rong nodded approvingly and said in a low voice. Boom! Boom! The moment the first sun was destroyed, another 2 blazing sun golden thunderbolts fell from the sky. These 2 blazing sun golden thunderbolts were even bigger than before. They were already 2,000 feet in size. Chapter 1496. The ninth sun Zhuowen's gaze was grave. His body, which was suspended in the air, suddenly twisted in an inconceivable manner. His right leg swept out like a whip. Rumble! Zhuowen still used the laws of the void in this kick. With this kick, space collapsed. The 2 spinning blazing golden thunderbolts actually froze in the air. Collapse! Zhuowen roared, and the void collapsed again. However, the power of the second sun was much stronger than that of the first sun. It did not collapse in the collapsing void. Instead, it rampaged through the void, showing signs of breaking through the void. Looking at the 2 blazing golden thunderbolts that hadn't collapsed, Zhuowen narrowed his eyes. He took a step forward. The laws of the void filled the bottom of his feet. As if he had teleported, he appeared above the blazing golden thunderbolts. At this moment, Zhuowen's eyes abruptly opened. Icy blue and fiery red intertwined. He immediately activated the power of the Ice Sand Fire Sacred Rune. Zhuowen pressed down with his right hand. The energy of ice and fire soared into the sky, condensing into a 10,000-meter-tall palace of ice and fire. It rumbled as if it was going to crush everything. What terrifying energy of ice and fire! This child can actually combine the laws of ice and fire so harmoniously? Chao Rong frowned slightly. His eyes narrowed as he stared at the palace. It should have been very difficult to combine the 2 extreme energies of ice and fire. However, Zhuowen was able to skillfully combine these 2 types of energy together. This caused Chao Rong to involuntarily recall a kind of supreme treasure. It shouldn't be that kind of thing. That's a treasure of the world. It's terrifying. It shouldn't only have this much power. This child probably cultivated some kind of special secret technique that can combine the laws of ice and fire to create even more powerful energy. Chao Rong shook his head and laughed at himself. He completely dismissed the idea that had suddenly popped up in his mind. Such a treasure of the world was rare even in the Central Plains. Even if it existed, it would be in the hands of the various major factions. How could it possibly appear in the Eastern Plains? Boom boom boom. As the palace came crashing down, the 2 golden suns that were contained by the void were directly crushed by the palace of ice and fire. Hiss hiss hiss. This scene caused many people to suck in a breath of cold air. The power of this 10,000 zhang palace was so terrifying that the second sun was directly crushed. Boom! Boom! After crushing the second sun, a third sun descended from the sky, followed by a fourth sun, a fifth sun. Each sun had 1 more golden sun than the previous one. When the 9th sun was reached, the 9 golden suns in the sky would all descend. That power was enough to burn the sky and boil the sea. The Icefire Palace was extremely powerful, especially after Zhuowen had learned how to use the Icefire Saint symbol. The power of the Icefire Palace he could control had reached an unprecedented level. Even the 7th sun was crushed by the Ice and Fire Palace. Furthermore, Zhuowen was also very smart. Before the blazing sun golden lightning was destroyed, when its power was greatly suppressed by the Icefire Palace, he would jump into the blazing sun golden lightning and bathe his entire body in the tempering of the blazing sun golden lightning. As time passed, Zhuowen's holy body became more and more powerful under this silent tempering. It even showed signs of being reborn. I'm afraid that I'm not far from the great completion holy body. Feeling that his physique was constantly strengthening, Zhuowen clenched his fists tightly. Suddenly a crackling sound was heard. The terrifying power seemed to be able to crush the air. He has passed the seventh sun. This Zhuowen is really amazing. The power of the nine suns' thunder tribulation was so terrifying that it attracted the attention of countless warriors in the ninth netherworld realm. Especially when they saw Zhuowen shatter the seventh sun in a row. Everyone was in an uproar. For these ordinary martialists, even the first sun was enough to crush them, let alone the seventh sun sapphire shore, and the other leaders of the seven forces frowned. Obviously, they were not happy with this result. At the same time, they were secretly shocked. The eighth sun and the ninth sun's power will transform. This guy will definitely not be able to withstand it, Sapphire Shore said coldly. The other leaders of the six forces also nodded. Obviously, they agreed with Sapphire Shore. I wonder if Zhuowen will be able to pass the last two tribulations. Chao Rong narrowed his eyes and revealed a look of anticipation. Rumble. At this moment, 8 golden suns fell from the sky like 8 meteorites. Each of them was 80,000 feet long. The power of the 8th sun was much more terrifying than the 7th sun. Its power had almost undergone a qualitative change. The golden lightning spread across the sky like countless golden tentacles, almost reaching the area where the Nine Nether Realm was located. Many of the martial practitioners on the square stage were so shocked that they hurriedly left the square stage to avoid the golden lightning that was spreading towards them. Ah! Ah! Screams rang out continuously. Some warriors on the square platform of the Ninth Netherworld Realm couldn't escape in time, and were hit by the golden lightning. They were directly blown to smithereens. Hiss! Seeing this scene, many ancient martial art practitioners hurriedly retreated. Just the golden lightning that was released had such terrifying destructive power. It was hard for them to imagine that if they faced the 8 golden suns head-on, they would probably be directly bombarded by the golden lightning. As for the leaders of the forces on the square platform, they unleashed a powerful defense and barely blocked the golden lightning. Although they managed to block it, they were barely able to do so. The 8th sun. Zhuowen wasn't afraid. He held the 9-star 8 trigram spear in his hand and was surrounded by 3 profound saint artifacts. At the same time, he waved his right hand, and the Ice Fire Palace directly bombarded the 8 golden suns. Boom! Boom! What shocked Zhuowen the most was that the terrifying Ice Fire Palace did not last long under the attack of the 8 blazing sun golden thunderbolts before it collapsed. How terrifying! Zhuowen was shocked. He knew better than anyone how powerful the Ice Fire Palace was. However, it had only lasted for a short while before collapsing under the power of the 8th sun. This was truly beyond his expectations. Whoosh! Countless golden lightning bolts spread out, attacking Zhuowen's body in a densely packed manner. Fortunately, Zhuowen was protected by 3 profound saint artifacts, and the golden lightning didn't get close to him. However, as the 8 golden suns got closer, the golden lightning became denser and denser. It was as if there were no holes that they couldn't penetrate. The pressure on Zhuowen also became heavier. Dragon Subduing Fist. 9-star 8 trigrams diagram. Zhuowen didn't hold back and used the Dragon Subduing Fist and the 9-star 8 trigram spear skill. The 9-star 8 trigrams diagram. Countless dragon shadows appeared, and together with the 8 trigrams diagram that filled the sky, Zhuowen was shrouded in a layer of mysterious light. Boom! In the end, the 8 golden suns blasted Zhuowen's body and exploded. Countless golden lightning surged and almost dyed the sky of the 9 nether platform into a golden sea. Boom! As the golden lightning gradually faded, a figure fell from the sky and landed heavily on the ground, attracting everyone's attention. That's Zhuowen. The 8th sun actually made him look so miserable? When everyone saw the figure's appearance, there was an uproar. This was because Zhuowen was in an extremely sorry state at this moment. The 3 profound saint artifacts that were revolving around him had dimmed, and the saint aura on their surface was covered in dust. It was obvious that they had suffered heavy injuries in the collision earlier. On the other hand, Zhuowen wasn't in a good condition either. The clothes on his upper body were torn, revealing his muscular body. Cracks appeared on the surface of his body, and red blood flowed out from the cracks, staining Zhuowen's body. It made him look like a man made of blood. The power of the eighth sun is so terrifying. Zhuowen coughed out a mouthful of blood. He supported his body and knelt on the ground with one knee. He was panting, and his eyes were filled with shock. This was only the eighth sun. The 9 suns' lightning tribulation still had the most terrifying 9th sun. The 8th sun had already reduced him to such a state. If it was the 9th sun, Zhuowen could not imagine if he could withstand the bombardment of the 9th sun. At this moment, the powerful recovery power of his saint body was constantly healing the cracks on his body. The blood that was flowing out also began to stop forming scabs under the effect of the recovery power. At the same time, Zhuowen took out a porcelain bottle from his spirit ring and poured the immortal elixir inside into his mouth. There was an elixir room in the Azure Dragon Hall. Zhuowen took out many top-grade immortal elixirs from there. This time, he put a kind of top-grade immortal elixir into his mouth. After swallowing the whole bottle of top-grade immortal elixir, Zhuowen immediately sat cross-legged on the ground and began to refine the surging medicinal power. The injuries on his body were recovering at a speed visible to the naked eye. That's an immortal elixir, and its quality is not low. This little bastard is really rich. He must have gotten it from the immortal saint weapon. Sapphire Shore's eyes were sharp. He immediately recognized the immortal elixir in Zhuowen's porcelain bottle. His eyes were filled with greed. Not only Sapphire Shore, but the undying old monster, and the others also had burning eyes, and were ready to make a move. The 9th sun is about to arrive. This kid will definitely die. Sapphire Shore was full of confidence. If the 8th sun could make Zhuowen look so miserable, then the most terrifying 9th sun would probably be able to blast Zhuowen into pieces. It's the last tribulation. I wonder if Zhuowen will be able to survive this tribulation? Everyone in the Fine God Institute began to worry for Zhuowen. Woody, who was beside the palace master of the Demon God Palace, clenched her fists tightly. Her palms were sweating. Rumble. Under everyone's gazes, the 9 golden thunderbolts at the bottom of the tribulation clouds bloomed with earth-shattering golden light. Then they sank with a rumble. As the 9th sun sank, the entire 9 nether sky began to tremble. The tremors became more and more intense. The 9 nether sky platform and the entire 9 nether realm began to tremble. It was as if it would collapse at any time. All the living beings in the 9 nether realm began to worry. Obviously, the power of the 9th sun was beyond everyone's expectations. Even the 9 nether realm was affected. Chapter 1497. 5-clawed golden dragon rumble. The 9th sun slowly sank, and the terrifying pressure seemed to want to crush the entire 9 nether sky. The vast 9 nether sky platform trembled violently under the 9 blazing golden lightning suns. It was on the verge of collapse. Standing on the platform, Chao Rong's eyes narrowed slightly. The saint energy on the surface of his body seemed to have substance as it spread around his body, turning into a dazzling golden armor. It was dazzling, and it resisted the terrifying pressure. The 9th sun is really terrifying. I wonder how this child will deal with it. Chao Rongwei turned his head, and his gaze landed on the figure sitting cross-legged on the ground, still recuperating from his injuries. His eyes revealed a thoughtful expression. The 9 sun lightning tribulation was the final tribulation. If Zhuowen passed it, he would undergo the final transformation and become a peerless saint. If he could not pass it, he would turn into insignificant dust and be annihilated from the world. At this moment, on the 9 square platforms that were derived from the 9 directions of the 9 nether sky platform, many cultivators had retreated into their respective 9 nether realms. Those who remained were the powerful forces and saint experts in their respective nether realms. Zhuowen slowly stood up. At this moment, his naked and muscular upper body was covered with dense golden veins, as if countless golden worms were crawling on his body. His gaze, icy blue and fiery red intertwined, bursting forth with a strange and unfathomable light. It passed through the restrictions of the 9 nether sky platform and landed on the 9 blazing golden lightning suns that were 90,000 feet tall. Crack! When the ninth sun landed on the nine nether sky platform, countless spiderweb-like cracks appeared on the surface of the nine nether sky platform. Even the restrictions on the surface of the nine nether sky platform can't withstand the terrifying power of the ninth sun. This scene caused many cultivators to widen their eyes in disbelief. The power of the first 8 suns was already terrifying enough, but they were unable to threaten the restrictions of the nine nether sky platform. However, the moment the ninth sun landed on the sky platform, it actually shattered the restrictions on the surface of the sky platform. What kind of terrifying power was this to be able to cause such shocking destruction? Sapphire Shore, Undying Old Monster, and Wuho's 7 people were all ecstatic. Previously, they did not dare to act rashly because of the restrictions on the ninth underworld sky platform. Right now, the power of the ninth sun was vast and mighty, almost crushing the restrictions of the 9 underworld sky platform. They could directly enter the sky platform and capture Zhuowen. Crack! In the end, the 9th underworld sky platform's restrictions crumbled under the pressure of the 9th sun, and the 9th sun continued to fall without slowing down. Hall Master Qing, the restriction has been broken. Should we go in directly? Wuho's eyes flickered, and suddenly looked towards Sapphire Shore, revealing an inquiring look. Not only Wuho, the other 5 leaders also stared at Sapphire Shore. Let's wait for a moment. The power of the 9th sun is too terrifying. This kid hasn't gone through his tribulation yet, so it's definitely inappropriate for us to go in. We'll wait until this kid starts to get tired of dealing with it. Then we'll rush in and kill him. We'll refine his soul and take his spirit ring, said Sapphire Shore in a sinister tone. We have to be wary of that Sapphire Shore. On the Divine Spectre Realm's side, Yanji's gaze fell on Sapphire Shore and the others. He took a step forward and brought Jiang Xian and Wen Bai to a place not far from Sapphire Shore and the others. Not only Yanji, but Zhao Jun of the Demon God Palace also brought 2 demon saints of the Demon God Palace and landed beside Yanji. Her beautiful eyes stared warily at Sapphire Shore and the others. Yanji, Zhao Jun, what's the meaning of this? Said Sapphire Shore in a sinister tone, his gaze cold. Sapphire Shore, now that the restrictions of the 9 underworld sky platform have been broken, I think you'd better not act rashly, said Yanji coldly. Haha, the 2 of you really don't know what's good for you. Yanji and Zhao Jun, the 2 of you can't stop the people that I, Sapphire Shore, want to kill. Sapphire Shore threw his head back and laughed. Then, with a wave of his sleeve, 9 figures with majestic auras leaped out from the square platform of the Dragon Spectre realm. Saints, 9 saints. Feeling the terrifying auras of the 9 figures, everyone was shocked. They didn't expect that there would be 9 saints in the Blue Dragon Hall. Including Sapphire Shore, wouldn't there be 10 saints? The number of saints here was 3 times more than the number of saints in the Divine Spectre Academy. 9 saints dragon formation. Qing Yuan indifferently spat out these words. The 9 saints that flew out from the square platform of the Dragon Wasteland each took out a jade slip with their right hand and crushed it in unison. Roar! 9 dragon roars rang out from the jade slip. Then, the Saint Qi of the 9 people began to surge out crazily, connecting with each other in a strange way. In the end, it turned into a huge golden dragon that was tens of thousands of feet long. This huge golden dragon was lifelike. Its 4 dragon claws were as big as mountains, and each dragon claw had 5 claws. 9th grade dragon soul 5-clawed golden dragon? Yanji frowned as he stared at the 5-clawed golden dragon formed by the Saint Qi of the 9 saints. The 5-clawed golden dragon was very famous. It was the 9th grade dragon soul of a peerless Ryuka patriarch from 10,000 years ago. Its power was extremely terrifying. He didn't know how Sapphire Shore got his hands on such a 9th grade dragon soul, and used some kind of secret method to make the 9 saints activate it. Haha, you're right. This is the 9th grade dragon soul 5-clawed golden dragon. It was extracted from Qing Longzi's body to form the dragon soul array. Its power is much stronger than Qing Longzi's own materialization. Sapphire Shore laughed. Yanji's eyes narrowed. No wonder Qing Longzi didn't release his dragon soul during the battle. It turned out that Sapphire Shore had extracted it and made it into the dragon soul array. This green jade shore was really ruthless. He actually did an experiment on the genius he had nurtured and extracted the dragon soul from him. However, what Qing Yuan said was indeed correct. This dragon soul grand array was indeed very powerful. Moreover, Yan Ji could faintly feel that the might of this dragon soul grand array could completely increase as the strength of the martial artist presiding over the grand array increased. The failure rate of extracting the dragon soul of a warrior without permission should be very high, right? You actually dared to experiment on Qing Longzi. Aren't you afraid of failure? Yan Ji frowned. Qing Yuan instead laughed out loud and said, "For 10,000 years, our Azure Dragon Hall has always been looking for the descendants of the Long family. The number of Long family descendants that we've captured is at least several thousand, if not several tens of thousands. Do you think that our Azure Dragon Hall has only killed these Long family descendants?" Hearing this, Yan Ji's eyes narrowed and said, "You're experimenting on the extraction of dragon souls on those Ryuka descendants?" "Yes, thanks to those descendants of the Long family, we have finally obtained the correct method of extracting the dragon soul after thousands of years of experimentation. Moreover, the failure rate is not high. Otherwise, do you think I would casually experiment on Qing Longzi?" Qing Yuan said indifferently. Yan Ji and Zhao Jun looked at each other and felt their hair stand on end. Sapphire Shore had hidden too deeply. He was actually secretly experimenting on the extraction of dragon souls. To be honest, you all think that my dragon soul is an 8th grade dragon soul. But it's actually a 9th grade dragon soul. When I was experimenting on the extraction method, there was naturally some success rate. Those dragon souls that were successfully extracted were all devoured by my dragon soul. Therefore, my dragon soul went from an 8th grade dragon soul to a 9th grade dragon soul. At this point, Sapphire Shore licked his lips and revealed a cruel look. "Enough nonsense. 5-clawed golden dragon, kill Yan Ji and Zhao Jun for me." With that, Sapphire Shore pointed with his right hand. Suddenly, the huge 5-clawed golden dragon roared and flew through the air. A dragon claw slashed through the air, and wherever it passed, the space collapsed. Yan Ji's face changed slightly. 3 blazing suns flew out of his body, and the law of light was pushed to the extreme. He even took out the profound saint artifact, dazzling light token. Jiang Xian and One Bai followed closely behind Yan Ji, each of them releasing a powerful saint energy to block the attack of the 5-clawed golden dragon. Boom! As the claw slammed down, the sky fell and the earth cracked. Yan Ji and the other 2 grunted and were directly thrown back thousands of feet. This 5-clawed golden dragon is terrifying. Everyone was shocked, and even Zhao Jun was in disbelief. Roar! After forcing Yan Ji and the other 2 to retreat, the 5-clawed golden dragon attacked again. "Let me help you." Zhao Jun stepped forward and brought 2 beast saints to help Yan Ji. For a moment, the battle between the 6 sages and the 5-clawed golden dragon caused the sky to darken. The sun and moon lost their light, and the saint aura was vast and mighty. Yan Ji, Zhao Jun, and 4 profound sages joined forces, but they still can't suppress this 5-clawed golden dragon. Isn't this power too terrifying? This holy war shocked many martial artists, and they became more and more afraid of the 5-clawed golden dragon. After all, this 5-clawed golden dragon formation was formed by 9 sages. Everyone returned to the Divine Spectre realm first and closed the entrance. On the square platform of the Divine Spectre realm, Yang Yi ordered the people behind him. Everyone knew the seriousness of the matter. The battle between sages was terrifying, and if they were not careful, they might directly die. To be safe, they naturally hid in the Divine Spectre realm. Not only the Divine Spectre realm, but many martial artists of the other 8 Divine Spectres also retreated into the Divine Spectre realm and used their divine abilities to observe the situation in the 9 nether heaven. Everyone knew that something big was about to happen. With the conflict between Zhuowen and the Blue Dragon Hall, there might be an earth-shattering battle. Perhaps Zhuowen would once again take out his immortal sacred artifact in this battle. "Eldest senior brother, I'm going to help Zhuowen. Can you send me over?" Jianmu suddenly asked Yang Yi. Yang Yi took a deep look at Jianmu and finally nodded. "Don't stay for too long. The ninth sun will descend soon. With your half-sage strength, you won't be able to withstand such a tribulation. I know. Jianmu nodded with a cold gaze. Go, Yang Yi said, and put his right hand on Jianmu's shoulder. Then, the space beside Jianmu suddenly shattered, and Jianmu directly stepped into the void. When Jianmu reappeared, he had already landed in front of Zhuowen. Jianmu. At this moment Zhuowen, who had originally focused all his attention on the ninth sun, stared at Jianmu with narrowed eyes. Zhuowen, your dragon soul should be about to transform successfully. Take these 9 golden patterns. I wish you a smooth breakthrough. Jianmu was expressionless. He tapped his forehead with his right hand, and the 9 golden patterns were extracted. With a whoosh they entered Zhuowen's body. Chapter 1498. SS The plan. The 9 golden patterns drilled into Zhuowen's glabella. Immediately, the cracks on the golden cocoon in his sea of consciousness spread faster, as if the cocoon could burst at any time. Is that the void law? Zhuowen stared at Jianmu, who had disappeared into the void. His eyes narrowed as he revealed a bewildered expression. He himself had mastered the void law. Just now, Jianmu had broken through the void and left. The void law contained within was extremely dense. Thinking of this, Zhuowen's gaze pierced through the void and landed on the square platform of the divine specter realm. There, Jianmu had broken through the void and descended, while Yang Yi was standing alone on the square platform. The void law was cast by Yang Yi. Zhuowen's eyes were like torches. He could tell at a glance that the owner of the void law was Yang Yi, who was standing on the square platform. From the beginning to the end, Yang Yi was extremely mysterious in Zhuowen's eyes. Even though Zhuowen was about to become a saint, he still couldn't see through Yang Yi. Kid, don't think too much. Hurry up and help Xiaohe. Once Xiaohe breaks out of the cocoon, your path to becoming a saint will be unimpeded. Even Xiaohe will be of great help to you. Cheng Huang shouted in his mind, causing Zhuowen to immediately wake up. Saint Luck. Zhuowen came back to his senses and began to try his best to absorb the saint luck that Jianmu had given him. The golden patterns between his brows showed signs of expanding again, from 32 to 35. It's about to burst. When the golden pattern reached the 35th mark, the golden cocoon cracked open, and a terrifying pressure leaked out of it. It's too late. The 9th sun is about to descend, Cheng Huang shouted anxiously. Cheng Huang shouted anxiously, while a wisp of cold sweat flowed down Zhuowen's forehead. After that, he gritted his teeth and suddenly withdrew an immortal pill that flickered with golden light from his spirit ring. This is the last golden core of the great sage. Hopefully, it can speed up the process of Xiaohe breaking out of the cocoon. It was none other than the supreme grade Great Sage Golden Pill. Zhuowen had obtained 3 Great Sage Golden Pills from the 4th level of the pill room. He had given one to Long Xiaotian, used one previously, and now the last one came in handy. After Zhuowen swallowed the Great Sage Aurous Core, the cocoon floating in his sea of consciousness shattered at a speed that was several times faster than before. In fact, it was dozens of times faster. Crack! Crack! In the blink of an eye, the cocoon broke completely, and a black ray of light that could blot out the sun shot out from the cocoon and formed a black pillar of light that connected the sky and the earth behind Zhuowen's head. A deafening dragon roar erupted from Zhuo Jingwen's body, shaking the heavens and the earth and shaking the souls of everyone present. Many cultivators covered their ears in pain when they heard the terrifying dragon roar. They were horrified. Just the dragon roar alone was so terrifying. They wondered how powerful the owner of the dragon roar was. Zhuowen's dragon soul seems to have undergone a transformation. It looks like he's really going to break through. However, the 9th sun has already descended. Chao Rong took a step forward and jumped off the platform. He hovered in the air not far from the 9th underworld sky platform and looked down at Zhuowen, who was about to receive the 9th sun. The 9th sun's power was terrifying. Although he could completely destroy it, he would have to pay a hefty price. He couldn't pay such a price just to help Zhuowen. Xiaohe! The dragon roar grew louder and louder. Zhuowen leaped up, and a black ray of light shot out from between his eyebrows. A huge black dragon, that was 100,000 feet long, suddenly appeared in the air. Rumble! The huge dragon was so huge that it swung its tail and slammed into the ground of the 9th Underworld Sky Platform. The 9th Underworld Sky Platform shook violently and crumbled into dust. Hiss! The 9th Underworld Sky Platform was shattered. Is this Zhuowen's dragon soul? It's so powerful. The 9th Underworld Sky Platform shattered into countless pieces and floated above the 9th Underworld Sky, turning into a stream of rocks. It was a spectacular sight. This fellow's dragon soul isn't simple. Is it really a 9th grade dragon soul? Sapphire Shore frowned slightly and stared at the huge black dragon with a strange expression. It was the first time he had seen such a huge dragon. Even if it was a 9th grade dragon soul, it was rare to see such a huge dragon. Boom! The black dragon had 6 wings. When it spread its wings, it covered the sky and directly slammed into the 9 golden thunderbolts. Countless bolts of golden lightning spread across the sky, dyeing the entire sky a golden color. The 9,000 feet golden thunderbolts formed a ring-shaped sea of golden thunderbolts that was comparable to the black dragon's body. It could even be said that its power was even more terrifying. The black dragon's power was indeed terrifying. However, under the bombardment of the golden thunderbolts, it gradually fell into a disadvantageous position. The 9th sun is so terrifying. After Xiaohei's transformation, she's actually suppressed? Zhuowen was shocked. When he had advanced to the Emperor realm, Xiaohei's materialization was already 100,000 feet. Now that he had reached the Sage realm, Xiaohei had transformed into 100,000 feet. Regardless of whether it was her aura or strength, she was much more terrifying than before. Even so, she was still at a disadvantage under the 9th sun. Zhuowen, don't worry about me. I can totally deal with the 9th sun. I'm just putting on an act for Sapphire Shore. Suddenly, a voice sounded and Zhuowen's eyes narrowed. It was Xiaohei's voice. What's your plan? Zhuowen replied in a low voice. Of course. Now it's not just the Blue Dragon Hall. The Undying Altar, Desolate Island, 100 Flowers Park, St. Martial Sect, Wuxia, and the League of Assassins are also after your death. These guys want your immortal saint weapon and your life. Are you going to let them go? Xiaohei said coldly. Of course not. Those who want to kill me must all die. Zhuowen said coldly. That's right. Now lure them over. Do your best to lure them over, and then annihilate them all. At this point, Xiaohei's dragon eyes flashed with a cold light. Zhuowen's eyes narrowed. He knew what Xiaohei meant. Now Sapphire Shore and the others couldn't wait to kill Zhuowen. It could be said that the current Zhuowen was the best bait for Sapphire Shore and the others. Once they were lured over, he and Xiaohei would join hands and kill them all. Moreover, Xiaohei was so confident. Zhuowen knew that it must have more strength. It might have more powerful trump cards. Hall Master Qing. This kid's dragon soul is not simple. It can actually block the 9th sun. This is a good opportunity. While his dragon soul is in a stalemate with the 9th sun, we can kill this kid. Wu Hou hurriedly suggested to Qing Yuan. Killing intent bursting forth from his eyes, he was eager to give it a try, wishing that he could charge in right now and kill Zhuowen. Sapphire Shore frowned slightly. He felt that something was wrong. His eyes flickered, and he subconsciously glanced at the depths of the 9 nether tribulation clouds. He pondered for a moment. Hall Master Qing, what do you think? Undying Old Monster, and the others also looked at Sapphire Shore. They couldn't help but want to kill Zhuowen, this little bastard. Sapphire Shore, old dog, and you bunch of little dogs. Weren't you clamoring to kill me just now? Now that I, Zhuowen, am about to become a saint, are you all so scared that you don't dare to come? Just as Sapphire Shore was hesitating, Zhuowen took the initiative. He stood in the void and shouted arrogantly. His words were extremely unpleasant to the ears. The faces of Qing Yuan and the others instantly turned green when they heard Zhuowen call them old dogs and little dogs. They were the dignified overlords of the various nether realms, yet they were being insulted by a junior like this. It truly infuriated them. This kid deserves to die. Wu Hou was so angry that his teeth itched. He took a step forward, and a 10,000 zhang tall Saint Martial image appeared behind him. It instantly descended above Zhuowen's head. Die! Wu Hou bellowed, and chopped down with his palm. It was as if the mountains and rivers were breaking apart, and the mountains and rivers were collapsing. Zhuowen also punched out. The fist and palm collided, releasing a terrifying strength qi. Following that, Wu Hou and Zhuowen both retreated dozens of steps. This kid has yet to become a saint, and is already able to fight to a draw with Wu Hou. We definitely cannot let him successfully pass through the ninth sun. Kill! At the instant when Zhuowen and Wu Hou both retreated, the Imperial Exterminator's sinister voice rang out. He executed his assassination technique and disappeared from the air. When he reappeared, he was already behind Zhuowen. The dagger, which was a profound saint artifact, shot out soundlessly and pierced into Zhuowen's back, where his heart was. This attack was too fast for ordinary people to see clearly. However, Zhuowen sensed it. He suddenly twisted his body, and luckily dodged the dagger's attack. Let's work together and kill this kid. Bai Meisheng, the Undying Freak, Huang Yemo, and the Eternal Night Underworld Emperor turned into 4 rays of light and disappeared into thin air. They surrounded Zhuowen and charged at him. Everyone took out their own profound saint artifact. In the sky and on the ground, they sealed Zhuowen in every direction. Their saint aura surged and broke through the entire 9 nether heaven, turning into a long rainbow that stretched across the heaven and earth. 6 sages joining forces. What a terrifying might. Will Zhuowen be able to withstand it? In the 9 nether realm, countless people were paying attention to the battle on the 9 nether heaven platform, especially when they saw the 6 great saints using their profound saint artifacts to attack Zhuowen with all their strength. Their hearts trembled. The power of the 6 great saints could soar into the sky and shake the heaven and earth. Zhuowen had yet to become a saint. Facing the 6 great saints working together, he did not know how to resist or even die. Chao Rong frowned slightly, but did not make a move. Speaking of which, this was Zhuowen's own grudge. Moreover, Zhuowen had yet to become a saint. Everything was uncertain. Therefore, if Chao Rong made a move now and blocked the attacks of so many saints for Zhuowen, it would not be worth it. The 6 great saints' attacks swept over. Zhuowen narrowed his eyes and was not afraid. His saint body emitted a golden light. At the same time, the power of the 5 laws of void, death, desolation, ice, and fire gushed out and intertwined on the surface of his saint body. The daytime golden wheel, ghost wheel, and dragon head broadsword surrounded his body. He held the 9-star 8-trigram spear in his right hand. He stomped his right foot and rushed out, intending to fight the 6 great saints alone. Chapter 1499. Trapping the 6 Sages. Boom. The 6 sages joined forces, and their attacks even changed the color of heaven and earth. Countless cultivators in the 9 netherworld realm could clearly feel the terror of the 6 sage auras. Bang! A figure retreated step by step in the void, as if the space was about to shatter. It's Zhuowen. This kid didn't die under the joint attack of the 6 sages. He's only retreating. As they watched Zhuowen retreat step by step, the crowd exclaimed with disbelief in their eyes. The 6 sages were the rulers of the 6 netherworld realms, and they were all peak profound sages. If the 6 of them joined forces, they would be able to kill a profound sage of the same level, and could even fight against a Een Sky Sage. Again, Zhuowen was like a ferocious beast. He stepped in the air, and the void law spread out. His entire body was like a slippery worm, escaping into the void again and again. The 6 sages' attacks were indeed terrifying, but Zhuowen was too cunning. After falling into a disadvantage in the first collision, he didn't fight them head-on again. Little brat, hiding, what kind of hero are you? Wu Hou shouted angrily and blasted out his right palm. Zhuowen escaped into the void again and dodged his attack. This scene made him gnash his teeth in anger, and he couldn't wait to catch Zhuowen and tear him into pieces. Not only Wu Hou, but the undying old monster, Bai Meisheng, Imperial Exterminator, Eternal Night Dark King, and Huang Yemo were also extremely angry, but they were also extremely helpless. Zhuowen, who had mastered the void law, and the lightning wings formed by the wind and thunder sacred rune, was almost unparalleled in the world. Even if their cultivation was stronger than Zhuowen, they still couldn't catch up to him. The Imperial Exterminator suddenly suggested, "The 6 of us are too few. We need to call more people. As long as there are more people, this kid won't be able to escape." Brother Imperial Exterminator is right. This time, he has mastered the Void Law. However, because he's undergoing the Sage Tribulation, there's still a certain range limit. We need to send more people in. As long as we delay this kid for a while, the 6 of us will kill him together, and he won't be able to escape. The undying old monster nodded, and his gaze fell on the other 4. The 4 of them nodded in agreement. My League of Assassins still has 1 saint and 10 half-saints. My 100 Flowers Park also has 1 saint and 9 half-saints. The 6 of them communicated telepathically, and quickly decided to send out their respective saints. The League of Assassins, 100 Flowers Park, Undying Sacred Altar, Desolate Island, and Wuxia each had another saint, as well as many half-saints. Only the Sacred Martial Sect couldn't send another saint. After all, the great elder of the Sacred Martial Sect had been crippled by Zhuowen. Therefore, the Sacred Martial Sect could only send out all the half-saints in the sect. Whoosh! Whoosh! The 6 of them were not sloppy people. They quickly summoned the saints and half-saints of their sections. In next to no time, numerous figures with terrifying auras flashed out from the Death Netherworld, Flower Netherworld, Martial Netherworld, Night Netherworld, Desolate Netherworld and Slaughter Netherworld. There were around 70 to 80 people, 5 of whom were profound sages, and the rest were all half-sages. Such a lineup was extremely terrifying. Many of the martial warriors, who were watching this battle in the 9 Netherworld realm were shocked. So many saints and half-saints. It seems that the 6 Netherworld realms are determined to kill this Zhuowen. Many martial warriors discussed. Hall Master Qing, come together and capture this Zhuowen. If you are here, this kid will definitely die. Wu Ho turned his head and said to Sapphire Shore, who was not far away. At this moment, Sapphire Shore revealed a strange expression. He looked down at Wu Ho's group of 6, and the other experts they had sent. He smiled and said, "I'm coming. Hurry up and surround Zhuowen's area of activity." Wu Ho and the others didn't suspect anything. They all nodded, and immediately ordered their subordinates to densely line up in the area, surrounded by the 9th sun. This was because Zhuowen could only move within this area, and couldn't leave the range of the lightning tribulation. So 70 to 80 half-sages, plus 11 saints, had almost surrounded the entire range of the lightning tribulation. As long as Zhuowen escaped out of the void, he would immediately encounter a few of them. As long as Zhuowen was held back by someone, the 11 sages would attack together and kill Zhuowen. In the air, Zhuowen looked through the cracks and observed the traps set up by Wu Ho and the others. The corner of his mouth cracked open, revealing a cruel smile. "Since you're the one who delivered yourself to me, don't blame me for being impolite." After saying that, Zhuowen's gaze landed on Sapphire Shore, who was not far away, and frowned. He had a feeling that this Sapphire Shore seemed to be waiting for something. "Zhuowen, be careful of this Sapphire Shore. Didn't this guy already cooperate with the Heavenly Worm? Maybe he's brewing some kind of conspiracy right now." Xiao Hei's voice suddenly sounded in Zhuowen's mind, causing Zhuowen's gaze to congeal. He began to pay attention to the Sapphire Shore. Not far from the 9th sun, the huge 5-clawed golden dragon was locked in an intense battle with Yanji and the others. Fortunately, Yanji and Zhao Jun were not mediocre. Although they were at a disadvantage, they did not show any signs of defeat. "Xiao Hei, let's do it now. Since Sapphire Shore doesn't come in, then we'll take care of Wu Ho and the others first." In the end, Zhuowen decided not to wait any longer. The power of the 9th sun was terrifying. Although Xiao Hei was feigning civility, it still consumed a lot of origin energy. And, after killing these people, we'll find Sapphire Shore to settle the score. "You come out first and lure them near me," Xiao Hei said in a deep voice, roaring again and again. The huge dragon body retreated continuously, as if it was about to collapse under the 9th sun. This kid's dragon soul can't hold on any longer. Looks like he's about to fail in his breakthrough. "Wu Ho, the Imperial Exterminator, and the others were delighted. A bunch of bastards. If you want to kill me, then come. If you have the guts, then kill me right here. Zhuowen escaped from the void and shouted, then rushed towards Xiao He. Stop him! Wu Hou shouted. The few sage-to-be who were closest to Zhuowen turned into streaks of light and used their strongest attacks to block in front of Zhuowen. Die! Zhuowen was not afraid at all. The 9-star 8 trigrams spear slashed out horizontally. Spear light filled the sky and pierced through the horizon. The few sage-to-be screamed and were torn apart, exploding into a bloody mist. Whoosh! After killing the sage-to-be in front of him, Zhuowen's momentum did not decrease, and he instantly rushed to Xiao He. Whoosh! Whoosh! Wu Hou and the other 5 sage-to-be, led by 5 sage-to-be, and dozens of sage-to-be, quickly surrounded Zhuowen. Little bastard, you still want to escape? Let's see where you can escape to this time. Wu Hou, the undying old freak, and the other 5 immediately used their powerful abilities to seal the space within 100 zhang radius around Zhuowen. In this way, Zhuowen was utterly unable to flee into the void within an area of 300 m. Wu Hou, Undying Old Monster, by Mei Sheng, Imperial Exterminator, Eternal Night Dark King, and Huang Mo. You are the rulers of your respective secluded realms, the strongest sage-to-be at the peak of the profound sage realm. Now that you have joined forces to deal with a junior who has yet to enter the saint realm, don't you feel ashamed? Zhuowen said indifferently. The Imperial Exterminator sneered. Ashamed? You can only blame yourself for having an immortal saint artifact. You can only blame yourself for killing all our elite disciples in the 9 Underworld Assembly. You are courting death, and now you are blaming me? An ordinary man is innocent, but treasuring a jade ring becomes a crime. You don't have the strength, and having an immortal saint artifact is a sin. Wu Hou sneered. If you know what's good for you, hand over the immortal saint artifact, and we may consider only crippling your cultivation and not taking your life. The undying old monster said. Looking at the ugly faces of Wu Hou and the other 5, Zhuowen smiled, and his smile was extremely bright. Little bastard, what are you laughing at? What's so funny? Wu Hou's eyes were gloomy. He had been unhappy with Zhuowen for a long time, and now that he saw Zhuowen still smiling at death's door, he was naturally even more unhappy. Therefore, Wu Hou quickly made his move. He stepped into the void, and instantly swept in front of Zhuowen, and slammed his palm down, causing thousands of rainbow lights to erupt. Boom! However, the moment Wu Hou's right palm landed, a terrifying golden lightning that was as thick as a water bucket descended and struck his right palm. Poochie! In an instant, Wu Hou's palm exploded into a bloody mist, and Wu Hou retreated a few steps because of it. What is that? Wu Hou's right palm that had exploded was staring at the sky above Zhuowen in shock. He saw that the 100,000 feet long black dragon was coldly staring at him with its pair of huge dragon eyes, causing him to feel a chill down his spine. It's time for you to have a taste of the 9th sun, Zhuowen grinned, then leaped up and landed on Xiao He's head. Then, the void where Xiao He was at collapsed. 1 man and 1 dragon directly disappeared into the void. Boom! The moment 1 man and 1 dragon disappeared, the 990,000 feet long blazing golden lightning, without Xiao He's obstruction, immediately fell at an extremely fast speed, like falling meteorites. Run! Wu Hou's expression changed greatly, and without thinking he immediately fled. Not only Wu Hou, but the undying old monster, the Imperial Exterminator, and the other 4 also reacted immediately and used their movement techniques to escape. They finally knew why Zhuowen suddenly came out to provoke them. It turned out that it was to trick them. Run! When Wu Hou's group of 6 fled, the rest of the half-step saints and 5 profound sages also scattered and fled in all directions. However, the speed of the 70 to 80 half-step saints could not compare to the falling speed of the 9th sun, and they were quickly caught up. The golden lightning exploded, and miserable screams gathered together. One by one, the half-step saints could not withstand the terrifying power of the blazing golden lightning, and were directly blown to pieces. The 6 of you should go in together. There's no need to escape. Wu Hou's group of 6 was very fast, and instantly escaped the edge of the ninth sun's lightning tribulation. Just as they were about to take a step and leave the range of the lightning tribulation, an indifferent voice came from in front of them. They saw Zhuowen standing on the black dragon, and the black dragon's huge dragon tail fiercely swung. Wherever it passed, countless astral winds swept up, and the space collapsed as it arrived in front of Wu Ho's group of 6. Dang! Dang! The power of this attack was too great. The 6 of them took out their profound sage artifacts to protect themselves, but they were still pushed back dozens of meters by this huge force. Chapter 1500. Profound Glimpse. Saint Realm. Block it! Wu Ho roared as he threw out a profound sage-grade halberd in his hand. It carried an earth-shattering force as it blasted towards the ninth sun lightning tribulation. Not only Wu Ho, but the undying old monster, Bai Mei Sheng, and the other 4 also used all their skills. They joined forces and took out their respective profound saint artifacts, erupting with boundless saint aura. Under the power of the scorching golden lightning tribulation, the half-saints were annihilated and turned into dust. These half-saints were considered top experts in the various netherworld realms. But now, under the scorching golden lightning tribulation, they were like ants, unable to withstand a single blow. In the instant that Wu Ho's group of 6 set up their defenses, the other 5 saints that they had gathered all fled to where the 6 of them were in a sorry state. Come in. Let's resist the attack of the scorching golden lightning tribulation together. The Imperial Exterminator roared, and the 5 saints hurriedly came over. The 11 of them joined forces, and their power was extremely terrifying. As for the rest of the half-saints, they were all dead, which made Wu Ho and the other 4 feel a faint pain in their hearts. The half-saints were the mainstays of their respective forces, and losing one was extremely painful. Now that they were all dead, it could be said to be a heavy loss. Boom! 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 The scorching golden lightning tribulation fell in front of the 11 people, and a terrifying golden lightning burst out. Then a rich golden light soared into the sky and directly exploded. An invisible air wave spread out from the center of the 9 netherworld heaven. Under the influence of this air wave, the 9 netherworld realms trembled violently. When the golden lightning was completely annihilated, Zhuowen, who was standing proudly on the head of the black dragon, released a terrifying saint aura from his body. A series of dense crackling sounds came from his body. If one observed carefully, Zhuowen's aura was growing stronger, and it was an earth-shattering trend, constantly rising and erupting, straight into the sky. The 9 sun lightning tribulation has passed, and Zhuowen's cultivation has advanced to the void profound saint realm. However, this kid's aura is still growing. I'm afraid it's not as simple as just breaking through to the void profound saint realm. Countless martial artists in the 9 netherworld realm looked at Zhuowen, especially when they felt that his aura continued to rise. They were all shocked. Good preparation. This kid obtained so much saint luck before becoming a saint, and then experienced the terrifying 9 sun lightning tribulation. I'm afraid it's impossible for him to only reach the first profound sky profound saint realm. Chao Rong squinted his eyes, revealing a look of joy. Even he did not expect that Zhuowen would actually transfer the 9th sun's tribulation to Wu Ho and the others. Killing 70 or 80 half-saints in exchange for the end of the tribulation was unexpected. The second profound nirvana profound saint realm, break for me! Zhuowen roared as his aura rose to a new height, reaching the second profound nirvana profound saint stage. The saint force in his dantian was much purer than before. Zhuowen had even integrated the karma law from his Buddhist clone, and the Masha law from his demonic Dao clone, into the saint energy in his dantian. The 7 laws converged harmoniously in his dantian, pushing Zhuowen's aura to its peak. This kid's aura is still rising. Could it be that he can break through to the third profound nirvana profound saint stage? Everyone was astonished. Breaking through to the saint plane, and advancing 3 levels in a row. Although it was impossible to end it, it was already unprecedented. Boom! Sure enough, while everyone was guessing, Zhuowen's aura rose to a new level, breaking through to the profound nirvana profound saint stage in one fell swoop. After reaching the profound nirvana profound saint stage, Zhuowen's aura finally stopped rising and completely stabilized. At this moment, Zhuowen revealed a look of surprise. He felt that his body was full of powerful energy, especially the saint energy in his dantian, which was much stronger than the yuan li in the past. Moreover, the 7 precepts had been integrated into his saint energy. He had reached the point where he could command any one of the 7 precepts in his body with just a word. However, he was currently only in the profound sage realm, so the fusion between the power of law and the saint force was not particularly dense. If he advanced to the heavenly sage realm, the power of law would fuse with the saint force, and the power would become very terrifying. After Zhuowen had completely advanced to the profound nirvana profound saint stage, the last trace of golden lightning of the 9 suns lightning tribulation had completely disappeared. Under the golden lightning, 11 extremely miserable figures were suspended above the 9 nether sky. These 11 people were the 6 martial marquises, as well as the 5 saints sent by their respective forces. The auras of the 11 saints were extremely weak, and the profound saint artifacts on their bodies were almost dim. The surface of their bodies was covered with extremely tragic cracks, as if they would collapse at any time. Among them, the most miserable were the 5 saints. They were basically missing arms and legs, and the most miserable one had both his hands and feet crippled. Looking at the miserable state of the 11 saints, everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. These were 11 saints. When had so many saints joined forces to fight in the 9 nether realm? It had never happened before. As expected of saints, even the 9th suns couldn't kill the 11 of them. Zhuowen's eyes narrowed, and he looked at the 11 saints that were in an extremely sorry state with slight surprise. He had personally experienced how powerful the 9th sun was. Even with his saint physique, he didn't dare to face the 9th sun head-on. Even Xiao He, who had transformed into a huge dragon body, had consumed an extremely large amount of origin energy to barely block the 9th sun. Moreover, it was only temporary, in order to lure Marshal Marquis and the others over. Saints have almost reached the point where they have the same lifespan as heaven and earth, and their saint energy is above all other energies. They are not so easy to kill. Xiao He transmitted her voice. Zhuowen nodded slightly and said, "Since the 9th sun didn't kill them, then let me handle the rest of the killing mission." After saying that, Zhuowen stomped his feet and rushed towards the 11 saints like an arrow leaving the bow. Marshal Marquis and the other 5 were shocked and angry. They all roared and cursed Zhuowen, "Little bastard." Although the 6 of them were all peak profound sages, they had also suffered extremely serious injuries. As for the 5 profound sages with lower cultivation, their injuries were even more serious and terrifying. Some of them had their arms and legs broken, and even their bodies weren't intact. This little bastard, seeing Zhuowen rushing straight towards them, Marshal Marquis and the others revealed a look of fear. They could all feel the vast and surging saint aura on Zhuowen's body. Moreover, this aura wasn't the void profound saint realm that had just entered the saint realm, but the glimpse profound saint realm that had reached the 3rd profound realm. This little bastard broke through to the saint realm and immediately reached the 3rd profound realm, the glimpse profound saint realm. The 6 of them were shocked. Zhuowen's breakthrough was too fast. He had advanced to the glimpse profound saint realm all of a sudden. It was really terrifying. At this moment, Zhuowen's saint might was vast and mighty, and the aura of the glimpse profound saint realm burst out. Even the surrounding space was distorted, causing the faces of Marshal Marquis and the others to change greatly. Boom. However, the moment Zhuowen was about to arrive in front of Marshal Marquis and the others, a terrifying gale suddenly swept over and heavily blasted towards Zhuowen's face. Boom. Zhuowen blasted out a punch. The power of the saint force and the saint physique intertwined, bringing along a supreme fist pressure and a burst of explosive sounds. Dang dang dang. Zhuowen groaned and retreated dozens of steps. Then, a green figure landed in front of Marshal Marquis and the others. Old dog Qing? Zhuowen retreated a few steps. His gaze fell on the green figure in front of him, and couldn't help but whisper, This sentence immediately caused Sapphire Shore's face to turn a little purple. His eyes were filled with killing intent as he stared at Zhuowen. Palace Master Qing, this kid is too arrogant. Capture him and tear him into pieces. The undying old monster hurriedly said to Sapphire Shore. This time, Zhuowen had caused them to suffer miserably. This time, almost all of the half-saints of their major forces had died. This enmity was absolutely irreconcilable. Even the other 5 profound sages had suffered extremely heavy injuries. If they wanted to recover, they would need a lot of resources and time. The 6 of you can rest assured. This kid will definitely die. If you have any last words, feel free to say them to me. Otherwise, you won't have the chance later. Sapphire Shore stood with his hands behind his back, facing the wind. His messy hair fluttered in the wind as his indifferent voice spread out in the surroundings. Martial Marquis, The Undying Old Monster, by Mei Sheng, the Imperial Exterminator, Huang Mo, and the Eternal Night Underworld King fell into silence. They stared at Sapphire Shore with strange gazes. They didn't quite understand what Sapphire Shore meant. Even Zhuowen stared at Sapphire Shore with a strange gaze. He didn't quite understand what Sapphire Shore meant. Hall Master Qing, what do you mean? We don't quite understand. Martial Marquis stood up, frowning as he stared at Sapphire Shore's back and said with a smile. Hee hee, brother Martial Marquis, you'll know soon enough. Sapphire Shore turned his head and stared at Martial Marquis, the corner of his mouth revealing a sinister smile. Poochie. Just as Sapphire Shore's voice fell, a sharp black tentacle suddenly pierced through Sapphire Shore's back, ruthlessly piercing through him. Sage blood gushed out from Martial Marquis' chest, turning into a rain of blood in the 9 nether heaven. Silence. The entire 9 nether heaven became incomparably quiet. Everyone's gazes were staring at Martial Marquis, who had been pierced through by the black tentacle. For a moment, no one was able to react to the current situation. They didn't even expect that a black tentacle would suddenly drill out and pierce through Martial Marquis' body. Zhuowen's eyes narrowed as he stared at the tentacle that had pierced through Martial Marquis. His face was as cold as a blade. He was too familiar with this aura. His gaze followed the end of the tentacle, only to see the tentacle heading towards the depths of the 9 nether heaven. There was a black shadow that was as black as ink. It was impossible to see the true appearance of the black shadow. So. The moment Martial Marquis was pierced through, another black tentacle shot out from the black shadow. Like black arrows, it shot towards the other 10 saints who were heavily injured. Scram! Undying old monster roared as the law of death revolved around his body. A large blade of death slashed out, cutting off the surrounding tentacles as he hurriedly fled. The Imperial Exterminator used his assassination technique and blended into the darkness, silently planning to leave. Bai Mei Sheng was surrounded by 100 flowers. Countless petals shot out like hidden weapons, blocking the countless tentacles. Chapter 1501. The heavenly worm appeared. Although the 5 netherworld realm experts were seriously injured, their means were not bad, and they managed to dodge the first wave of black tentacles. However, the other 5 saints, who were more seriously injured, were unable to resist at all. They were directly pierced by the countless black tentacles, and the saint force in their bodies was completely absorbed by the tentacles. What is this? Undying old monster, who had dodged the first wave of tentacles, looked at the 5 saints who had been sucked dry with lingering fear. Although the cultivation of the 5 saints was not high, they were still profound sages. Even if they were injured, the saint force in their bodies was still extremely vast. Yet in the blink of an eye, they had been sucked dry. Hall Master Qing, what is the meaning of this? Bai Mei Sheng, the Imperial Exterminator, and the others stared at Sapphire Shore not far away with gloomy eyes. They were 100% sure that this matter had something to do with Sapphire Shore. Sapphire Shore laughed and said, "Brothers, don't you want to kill this Zhuowen? Now lend me a hand, and I will help you kill this boy. As long as you give me all your saint blood, it will be fine." Sapphire Shore, are you scheming against us? No wonder you didn't participate with us when we were dealing with that Zhuowen, and now you are using despicable means to plot against us. Not far away, Wu Ho, whose body had been pierced by many black tentacles, suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. He stared at Sapphire Shore in shock and anger and angrily shouted, "Brother Wu Ho, don't worry. I will help you take revenge. When the time comes, I will make that Zhuowen wish he was dead." Sapphire Shore said slowly, and with a pinch of his right hand, Wu Ho suddenly screamed. The black tentacles that had pierced through Wu Ho's body began to wriggle violently and let out an ear-piercing sucking sound. After Wu Ho screamed, he completely lost his aura, and the Saint Force and Saint Blood in his body were all sucked dry. Hiss! This scene made the faces of the undying old monster, the Imperial Exterminator, and the other four extremely ugly. Wu Ho's strength was close to theirs, and they were all at the peak of the profound sage realm, but he had been sucked dry just like that. Just what was the origin of this tentacle? Skyworm's clone. Zhuowen raised his head and stared at the huge shadow in the sky as he shouted in shock and anger. He would never forget the Skyworm's aura. What shocked Zhuowen even more was that the Skyworm's aura was much stronger than it had been back in the Misery Sea. For it to be able to kill an ordinary profound sage with a casual blow, this damn thing's cultivation must have reached the terrifying level of a heaven sage. Zhuowen, be careful. This celestial insect probably has the strength of a sun-sky sacred realm expert. Coupled with its troublesome nature, even a sun-sky sacred realm expert wouldn't dare to fight it. Xiao Hei's huge body flew over and landed beside Zhuowen, her pair of dragon eyes solemnly staring at the deep and invincible shadow in the sky. Perhaps feeling Zhuowen and Xiao Hei's gazes, a terrifying pitch-black eye split open in the shadow and stared at Zhuowen and Xiao Hei, letting out a strange laugh. Whoosh! 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 The moment Zhuowen shouted out the identity of the sky worm, the shadow suddenly burst out with endless tentacles that blotted out the sky, instantly covering the area where the undying old monster, the Imperial Exterminator, and the other four were. Ah! 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 Miserable screams resounded one after another. Everyone knew that the undying old monster, the Imperial Exterminator, and the other four were most likely doomed. Skyworm. Chao Rong's face was somewhat gloomy. He first stared at the shadow, then at Sapphire Shore and said, "Sapphire Shore, you're really bold. You actually dared to connive with the Sky Worm to kill the other masters of the Nether Realm." Sapphire Shore smiled faintly and said, "Lord Chao Rong, I didn't connive. It was the Sky Worm who came out to look for food. It has nothing to do with me. How dare you talk to me like that? I think you're tired of living. Don't you know how powerful the Primal Chaos Temple is?" Chao Rong's eyes were gloomy. He was vaguely annoyed by Sapphire Shore's somewhat disrespectful words. With the backing of the Primal Chaos Temple, who wouldn't speak to him respectfully and politely? However, the Sapphire Shore in front of him seemed to have changed into a different person. He even began to become somewhat fearless. This attitude made him somewhat displeased. Moreover, his main purpose of coming to the eastern lands this time was the Sky Worm. Now that the Sky Worm had appeared, and was somewhat related to Sapphire Shore, he naturally had to properly question the Sapphire Shore. "Lord Chao Rong, you're mistaken. Do you know how powerful the Primal Chaos Temple is? I'm just a mere blue dragon hall. How dare I offend them? In fact, as long as I kill you and Guning, then take control of the entire Nether Realm, the Primal Chaos Temple won't suspect me." Sapphire Shore laughed loudly. His eyes were as calm as still water, as if everything was under his control. You want to kill me? With just you?" Chao Rong's eyes revealed a strange expression, as if he had heard the world's funniest joke. He continued, "You're really crazy. Now, I just need to spread the news to the Primal Chaos Temple, and your Blue Dragon Hall will cease to exist." Sapphire Shore's smile grew wider. He said, "Lord Chao Rong, you seem very confident. Then can you try to spread the news?" Hearing this, Chao Rong frowned slightly. With a flick of his finger, he took out a jade slip and crushed it. Immediately, a ray of light disappeared into the depths of Nether Heaven at the speed of light. However, the ray of light quickly returned from the depths of Nether Heaven and landed in Chao Rong's palm. "The entire Nether Heaven and Nether Realm have been sealed," Chao Rong's expression was gloomy as he said something that shocked everyone. Whoosh whoosh. At this moment, the five-clawed golden dragon swept through the void and landed beside Sapphire Shore. Yanji Zhaojun and the others landed not far away from Zhuowen. Their eyes were filled with shock and bewilderment. Long Tian, who had originally landed in the distance, also flew behind Zhua, went in an extremely respectful manner, and made space for him. Naturally, they had heard Chao Rong's words clearly. They did not expect Sapphire Shore to be so powerful as to seal off the entire nether heaven. How did he do it? Looks like Sapphire Shore used the power of the heavenly worm to seal off nether heaven, right? Zhuowen's voice was extremely low. To be able to seal off such a large area of 9 nether heaven, perhaps only that strange and unpredictable heavenly insect could do so. Good. Sapphire Shore, you're really courting death. How dare you plot against me? I'll personally kill you today. Chao Rong roared angrily as a terrifying saint power burst out. The saint power continued to condense, and condensed into 99 blazing suns with boiling magma around him. Each blazing sun was at least 1,000 feet in size. The 99 blazing suns appeared above nether heaven, and the terrifying temperature swept out like a flood. Even the countless creatures far away in nether heaven could feel their mouths and tongues go dry. Die! Chao Rong was among the 99 blazing suns. Countless blazing suns rotated as he took a step forward. He seemed to have teleported and landed in front of Sapphire Shore. So powerful. Chao Rong is indeed a powerhouse of the Yang Sky Sacred Realm. This power is comparable to Zotianzong. Feeling the terrifying aura from Chao Rong, Zhuowen's expression changed slightly. There was no doubt that Chao Rong was definitely a powerhouse of the Yang Sky Sacred Realm. His aura was so terrifying that it was definitely not something an ordinary profound sage could contend against. Sapphire Shore's gaze was solemn as he punched out. Thousands of azure dragon shadows appeared and flickered in the void. The sound of the fist exploding through the air was endless. Rumble! The attacks of the two collided, and the entire nether heaven began to rumble. Then, a huge ravine appeared from the head of nether heaven all the way to the tail. The terrifying ravine caused the hearts of countless cultivators to tremble, and their eyes were filled with fear. Thump! 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 The ravine appeared, and the attacks were destroyed. Then the two figures retreated hundreds of feet. You're also in the Yang Sky Sacred Realm? Chao Rong was surprised. He didn't expect Sapphire Shore to be in the Yang Sky Sacred Realm. He had inquired about Sapphire Shore before, and the latter was clearly in the Yang Sky Sacred Realm. He didn't expect the information to be so unreliable. Sapphire Shore, leave this lackey of the Primal Chaos Temple to me. The Primal Chaos Temple has been suppressing my main body for tens of thousands of years. I want to take good care of this lackey of the Primal Chaos Temple. Suddenly, a hoarse voice came from the black figure. Then, the black figure began to wriggle, turning into a human figure, and landing beside Sapphire Shore. This figure was not unfamiliar to Zhuowen. It was Mu Feng's appearance back then. However, at this moment, Mu Feng's eyes were filled with a strange black color, while countless tiny tentacles were wriggling around his body. As expected, the Skyworm avatar escaped. When the Baifeng suddenly left the central plains, I already suspected it. You were brought out by the Baifeng, right? Where is the Baifeng? Gunning took a step forward and landed beside Chao Rong. He stared at the sky worm in shock and anger. Hee, Baifeng, that damned old man. That old man suppressed me for hundreds of thousands of years. Now that he's dead, he can't be any more dead. It's useless for you to find him, the sky worm snickered. The Baifeng is a sinner. Even death can't wipe out his crimes. However, you were able to grow so quickly in such a short time. This Sapphire Shore must have helped you, right? Chao Rong's face darkened as he said in a deep voice. Hee, of course. It's impossible for me to grow so quickly on my own. Sapphire Shore can be said to be my benefactor. The sky worm laughed aloud. Chao Rong's eyes were very cold. He continued, Sapphire Shore, you're asking a tiger for its skin. If you work with the sky worm, he'll eat you up until not even your bones remain. You still have a chance to deal with the sky worm with me. When the time comes, the Primal Chaos Temple will forgive you. I don't need the primal chaos temple's forgiveness. As long as I kill you and make up a perfect lie, the primal chaos temple won't suspect me. After all, the eastern lands are just too far away from the central plains. Sapphire Shore smiled and continued. And if it weren't for the Sky Worm, I wouldn't have had the chance to break through to the Yang Sky Saint realm. Why should I deal with the Sky Worm with you? Let's cut the crap. Sapphire Shore, kill that Zhuowen and take his spirit ring. Don't you want the Immortal Saint artifact on him? Kill him, take his spirit ring, and I won't fight with you for the Immortal Saint artifact. How about that? The Sky Worm snickered at Sapphire Shore. Sapphire Shore was overjoyed. He said, "Thank you for your kindness, Lord Sky Worm. This time, Sapphire Shore will definitely not disappoint you. I'll thoroughly torture Zhuowen to death." Chapter 1502. Blue Hellish Fiend Dragon. How presumptuous of you! Chao Rong yelled furiously. The 99 suns around him emitted a terrifying glow as he shot at the heavenly insect, like an arrow fired from a bow. Gunning followed beside Chao Rong. His skinny right hand tapped in the air. His immortal force was like the most vivid ink, drawing several abstruse formations in the air. Gunning was a mystic saint master. The number of killing formations that he knew far surpassed Zhuowen's. The formations that he was drawing were not something that Zhuowen could use. However, Zhuowen's divine sense was inherited from the Baifeng. Even though he did not have the ability to draw the formations that Gunning was drawing, he could still understand them. The Supreme Destruction Formation, the Absolute Slaughter Formation, the Mountain of Corpses Formation. In the blink of an eye, Gunning had outlined 7 or 8 deadly formations, each of which possessed terrifying power. Zhuowen stared at Gunning's hand and the killing formations that he kept drawing. His eyes flickered with understanding. The black and white Niwen palace on his forehead spun wildly. The immortal force in his body began to gather in his Niwen palace. Bang! A thunderous voice erupted from Zhuozheng's body, rumbling and exploding. Milky white immortal force soared into the sky from Zhuowen's forehead. A tremendous power descended from the sky like the might of the heavens. Did he break through? Sapphire Shore, who was about to attack Zhuowen, was stunned when he sensed the surging immortal force. The commotion caused by Zhuowen's breakthrough had attracted the attention of many people in the surroundings. Zhuowen's mind power seems to have evolved? No, it's not mind power. It must be immortal force that's of a higher level than mind power. Bang bang bang. Zhuowen's immortal force was evolving rapidly. His Niwen palace had undergone tremendous changes too. His Niwen palace should have been filled with mind power, but it was now replaced by immortal force. Great Heavenly Arcana Master. Zhuowen mumbled softly. He did not expect to have an epiphany and a breakthrough after watching Gunning's method of outlining the formation. However, he was not surprised at all. After all, he had inherited the Baifeng Sea of Consciousness, which was the sea of consciousness of a profound saint master. With such a knowledge sea, he would not encounter any bottlenecks in the process of breaking through to profound saint master. Although Zhuowen did not deliberately cultivate his immortal force during this period of time, his immortal force was still slowly increasing. Now that he had some enlightenment, it was natural for him to break through in one go. He's still just an arcana heavenly master. Sapphire Shore came back to his senses and didn't care at all. He took a step forward and instantly appeared in front of Zhuowen. He sneered, "Little bastard, you killed so many people from my Blue Dragon Hall. It's time for you to pay your debt." As he spoke, Sapphire Shore's right palm slammed down. Above his head, dense saint energy intertwined and condensed into a terrifyingly vast mountainous palm. Rumble! 1,000-meter-long dragon claw swept over and heavily slammed into the giant palm. The giant palm immediately collapsed, and Sapphire Shore took a few steps back as his gaze fell on the Abyss Saint Dragon. "Kiki, your dragon soul is not bad. After becoming a saint, it can actually transform into a 100,000-meter-long dragon. Is your dragon soul a mutated one?" Sapphire Shore grinned and continued, "I'd like to see if your dragon soul or mine is more powerful." As he spoke, the roar of a dragon burst out from Sapphire Shore's body. and a breathtaking green light bloomed from between his eyebrows. The green light grew denser and denser, and soared into the sky, turning into a 60,000-meter-long green dragon. This huge green dragon looked like a green dragon, but the difference was that this huge dragon's green dragon scales were mottled with a blood-red color. It looked extremely strange, and its eyes were filled with a blood-red baleful aura. Its ferocious aura was monstrous. Ninth grade dragon soul, green abyss demon dragon. Sapphire Shore grinned, revealing a cruel and mocking smile. The moment Zhuowen saw this dragon, his face darkened. This was because he sensed many familiar auras from this green hellish dragon. This green hellish dragon has devoured many dragon souls, and they should all be Ryuka dragon souls. Xiaohei hovered beside Zhuowen, her dragon eyes solemn and wary. Hehe, your dragon soul is quite intelligent. It's right. For the past 10,000 years, we have been searching for Ryuka descendants. The green hellish fiend dragon was originally a low-level dragon soul, but after continuously devouring dragon souls and the bloodline of your long family's descendants, it actually underwent an earth-shaking transformation. In the end, it transformed into a ninth-grade dragon soul. Hehe, speaking of which, Ryuka descendants are really nourishing nourishment. Sapphire Shore cackled as he stared at Zhuowen and Xiaohei with a greedy expression. You and your dragon soul are the most terrifying and talented Ryuka descendants I have ever seen. I wonder what kind of transformation the green hellish dragon will undergo after devouring the two of you. Zhuowen's eyes flashed with anger as he said coldly, Sapphire Shore, you have gone too far. If I, Zhuowen, don't kill you today, I will be letting down the Ryuka descendants who have died at your hands. Zhuowen, don't be rash. Sapphire Shore's cultivation has already reached the young Sky Saint stage. You are no match for him. Yan Ji, who was standing behind Zhuowen, couldn't help but try to persuade him. Yan Ji himself was in the Yin Sky Saint stage, and he was very clear about how terrifying the Yang Sky Saint stage was. To put it bluntly, even Yan Ji wouldn't be able to last long in front of Sapphire Shore, let alone Zhuowen. Although Zhuowen's combat strength was terrifying after breaking through to the profound saint stage, and he had comprehended 5 types of laws, making him far stronger than ordinary profound sages, Yan Ji still didn't think that Zhuowen would be a match for Sapphire Shore. However, Long Tian, who was standing not far from Yan Ji, didn't say anything. His eyes were full of passion as he knelt on one knee and said to Zhuowen, Lord Zhuowen, it's time for the Ryuka to see the light of day again. As soon as Long Tian said this, Yan Ji and the others were stunned. Even Sapphire Shore revealed a strange expression. For tens of thousands of years, traces of the Ryuka had always been hard to find. Even if there were any, they would have been captured and exterminated by the Blue Dragon Hall. It could be said that the number of Ryuka descendants should be extremely small. Are you joking? Let the Ryuka see the light of day again? How laughable. Sapphire Shore sneered, thinking that Long Tian was joking with him. It's indeed time for the Ryuka to see the light of day again. Zhuowen's eyes blurred as he flicked his finger and took out the blue dragon token. Rumble! A huge palace appeared above Zhuowen's head. This palace was tens of thousands of meters tall, and a terrifying saint aura leaked out from it, as if it could crush the surrounding space. Immortal Saint Artifact. It's an Immortal Saint Artifact. When the Blue Dragon Hall was summoned by Zhuowen, the entire 9th Netherworld realm was in an uproar. Everyone stared eagerly at the huge palace. This was an Immortal Saint Artifact. Who wouldn't want such a terrifying saint artifact? Rumble! Chao Rong and Guning, who were fighting with Tiangu, also stopped what they were doing. They stared blankly at Zhuowen and the huge Blue Dragon Hall. It really is an Immortal Saint Artifact. How can a mere Eastern land have an Immortal Saint Artifact? Chao Rong had a strange expression as he exclaimed in disbelief. Guning, who was standing beside him, was also stunned. As disciples of the Chaotic Temple, they had naturally seen Immortal Saint Artifacts before. As soon as the Blue Dragon Hall was summoned, they knew that this huge palace was an Immortal Saint Artifact. Tiangu grinned. With a kick of his right foot, he turned into a black shadow and instantly appeared in front of Chao Rong and Guning. A mere Immortal Saint Artifact can make the two of you reveal such expressions. The chaotic temple is just petty. Tiangu laughed and extended his right hand. Countless black qi turned into a huge palm that was surrounded by dense and terrifying black tentacles. Block it! Chao Rong was both shocked and furious. He didn't expect Tiangu to take advantage of this opportunity to attack, so he was at a loss. However, Chao Rong was an expert of the Yang Sky Saint realm after all. Although he was at a loss, Tiangu's sneak attack didn't succeed. Ah! A scream suddenly came from Chao Rong's side. Guning, who was beside him, was surrounded by countless black tentacles. Then the tentacles pulled, and Guning was directly pulled out. Oh no, Tiangu's target isn't me. It's Guning. Chao Rong's expression changed greatly. He shouted angrily and took out a giant ruler. The surface of the ruler was burning with green flames. What was more terrifying was the terrifying saint aura that radiated from the huge ruler. It was definitely an extremely powerful ascended saint artifact. Break it! Chao Rong waved his right hand, and the huge ruler smashed toward Tiangu like a mountain. Green flames spread across the entire sky like a grassland full of green. Moreover, the flames were unusual. They had corrosive power. When Tiangu's tentacles touched the flames, they were all corroded and disappeared without a trace. Ascended Saint Artifact Green Erosion Ruler? Tiangu narrowed his eyes. Countless tentacles suddenly gathered and turned into a black barrier. The barrier contained a black halo that barely blocked the green erosion ruler for 3 breaths of time. However, that was enough time. Guning was completely left behind by him. A huge shadow of a black monster appeared behind Tiangu. The shadow suddenly opened its mouth and swallowed Guning. Crunch! Crunch! The monster's huge mouth chewed up and down, and then swallowed Guning. Guning didn't even have time to scream before he became Tiangu's meal. I hate Arcana Saint Masters the most. I hate their formations the most. Tiangu patted his stomach and stared at Chao Rong casually. As he swallowed Guning, Tiangu's aura seemed to be growing stronger. Chao Rong, after I take care of you, there won't be any future trouble. Tiangu glanced at Zhuowen, who had summoned the Azure Dragon Palace, and then looked at Chao Rong again. Tiangu knew very well that palace-type saint artifacts were usually special spatial saint artifacts. They didn't have powerful attacks, and were only supportive. Therefore, in his opinion, even if Zhuowen had an immortal saint artifact, he wouldn't be a match for Sapphire Shore. Chapter 1503. SS The Birth of Ryakahush. Whoosh! Whoosh! The moment the Blue Dragon Hall appeared above Zhuowen's head, numerous figures rushed out of the magnificent hall. The auras of these figures were extremely vast. The weakest of them was at the Emperor Realm, while the strongest was at the Sky Yin Sacred Realm. There were nearly 10,000 of them, and the one who had reached the Sky Yin Sacred Realm was none other than Long Xiaotian. At this moment, Long Xiaotian was in front of everyone. Behind him, 8 figures respectfully followed. The auras of these 8 figures were extremely vast, and their bodies were filled with terrifying saint might. They were all profound sages. Greetings, Lord Longwen. Nearly 10,000 martial artists landed behind Zhuo, when in a grandiose manner. Shortly after, they all knelt down on one knee in unison. Nearly 10,000 voices resounded, like the explosion of profound thunder from the 9th heaven, reverberating in the 9 nether heaven. What kind of glory was it to have 10,000 people worship him? This scene shocked the entire 9 nether realm. Everyone's gazes fell on Zhuowen, and they didn't know how to describe their shock at this moment. The cultivation of these nearly 10,000 people wasn't bad. The weakest of them was at the Emperor Realm, and there were 9 sages. Among them, there were even powerhouses at the Sky Yin Sacred Realm. Such a force was definitely comparable to the current Blue Dragon Hall. What was even more shocking was that this force respected Zhuowen. Although these nearly 10,000 people called him Long One, everyone could guess that this so-called Long One was Zhuowen. Is this the Ryuka force? After nearly 10,000 years, is the Ryuka really going to rise again and take back everything the Ryuka lost? In the 9 nether realm, countless cultivators had looks of awe in their eyes. Some people even recalled the past of the Ryuka, and their eyes shone with a frightening light. Whoosh! Long Tian, who was standing not far away, looked at the arrival of nearly 10,000 Ryuka cultivators with excitement. He used his movement technique and landed beside Long Xiaotian. Including Zhuowen and Long Tian, the Ryuka has a total of 11 sages. This number is really terrifying, someone murmured in shock. Sapphire Shore's expression changed slightly, and his eyes revealed a look of surprise. He didn't expect the Ryuka to be able to develop so terrifyingly. It must be the credit of this saint artifact. Soon, Sapphire Shore's eyes lured Blue Dragon Hall. He knew that the Ryuka must have been hiding in the Blue Dragon Hall all these years. No matter how many resources the saint artifact, how did it produce so many powerhouses in such a short amount of time? If Sapphire Shore knew that the laws of time existed in the Blue Dragon Hall, he probably wouldn't be so surprised. A day outside was a year inside. In addition, Zhuowen had opened the door to the outside world, so the laws of heaven and earth could be used in the Blue Dragon Hall. Naturally, the cultivation of the people inside was extremely fast. It had been at least a few hundred years since Zhuowen left the Blue Dragon Hall. In these few hundred years, with the support of various resources, cultivation techniques, and weapons, the Ryuka's development was extremely fast. Father, where are grandfather and the others? Zhuowen came to Long Xiaotian and looked around. He couldn't help but ask curiously when he saw that many of the upper echelons of the Ryuka weren't present. Father, they are after all in the Emperor realm. I don't feel at ease letting them come out. After all, this battle will be extremely tragic. If they aren't careful, they will regret it for the rest of their lives. Long Xiaotian smiled bitterly. Hearing this, Zhuowen nodded in understanding. Then his gaze fell on the Ryuka disciples. Although he had been in the outside world for more than a year, Long Xiaotian had reported to him everything that had happened in the Blue Dragon Hall. Therefore, Zhuowen already knew about the current scale of the Ryuka. Long Tian, take these 10,000 people to the Dragon Phantom Realm, break through the Dragon Phantom Realm, and kill everyone in the Blue Dragon Hall. Zhuowen turned his head slightly and stared at Long Tian as he said coldly and emotionlessly. Long Tian agreed without the slightest hesitation. Under Zhuowen's orders, he led the mighty group of 10,000 people towards the square platform where the Dragon Wasteland was located. You dare? Sapphire Shore's eyes narrowed. He waved his right hand, and the five-clawed golden dragon beside him roared and broke through the air, wanting to block Long Tian and the others. Let's go and block this five-clawed golden dragon. Yanji roared as he led Jiang Xian, and won by in front of the five-clawed golden dragon and intercepted it. Zhao Jun even brought 2 demon saints to support Yanji. The five-clawed golden dragon was stopped halfway, unable to move an inch forward. Bastard! Sapphire Shore cursed. Seeing that the five-clawed golden dragon was blocked, he stomped his right foot and planned to intercept it personally. Most of the elites in the Dragon Phantom Realm had been sent out to participate in the Nine Nether Conference, and some of the higher-ups had also participated in the battle. It could be said that the Dragon Phantom Realm was very empty. Long Tian had brought so many experts to the Dragon Phantom Realm. It was definitely a catastrophe for the Blue Dragon Hall. Sapphire Shore, let's see where you're going. Long Xiaotian stepped out and immediately released the 2-headed nether dragon. At the same time, he released the laws of desolation, darkness, and wind at the same time. With a punch, the sky fell and the earth cracked. The 8 sages behind Long Xiaotian lined up behind Long Xiaotian in a mysterious pattern, forming a large formation. Long Xiaotian had become the eye of the formation. The 8 saints also released their own dragon souls. With the 2-headed nether dragon as the center, these dragon souls fused together and finally formed a gigantic iron-armored dragon that was fully covered in armor. Kill! With Long Xiaotian's punch, the huge dragon with armor flew up and landed heavily in front of Sapphire Shore. Scram! Sapphire Shore didn't care about Long Xiaotian's attack at all. He casually threw out a punch, thinking that this punch would be able to force Long Xiaotian to retreat. However, when the 2 fists collided, a terrifying force came crashing down. The huge dragon with armor roared and descended, landing in front of Sapphire Shore. The latter groaned and retreated. Dragon Soul Fusion? Sapphire Shore was shocked. The Dragon Soul Fusion was a secret technique of the Ryuka. It could fuse the dragon souls of people of the same race together to create an extremely powerful Dragon Soul attack. Green Hellish Dragon suppress him. Sapphire Shore didn't want to waste time on Long Xiaotian. He was still worried about the safety of the Blue Dragon Hall. So, he immediately released his Dragon Soul to attack Long Xiaotian. Boom! 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 The Steel Hellish Dragon and the Green Hellish Dragon continued to exchange blows. Old dog, it's not that easy for you to leave. When Sapphire Shore was about to leave, Zhuowen stood on top of Xiaohei's dragon head and blocked Sapphire Shore's path. Little bastard, how dare you stop me when you're just a glimpse profound saint? You're courting death. Sapphire Shore was enraged. He immediately threw out a punch and countless lightning bolts gathered. At the same time, he clenched his right hand and took out the Ascended Saint artifact, the Lightning Scepter. Rumble! Sapphire Shore used his full strength this time. The terrifying lightning bolts spread across the sky, as if doomsday had arrived, causing countless living beings to tremble. Zhuowen's eyes narrowed. He waved his right hand, and the Azure Dragon Hall appeared in front of him. The destructive lightning bolts landed on the Azure Dragon Hall, but couldn't do anything to it. Although the Azure Dragon Hall couldn't launch a powerful attack, it was an Immortal Saint artifact after all. Its defense was extremely strong. Even if Sapphire Shore was a Sun Sky Saint Realm expert and had the Lightning Scepter, he might not be able to break through the Azure Dragon Hall's defense. Zhuowen pressed his right hand on Xiaohei's head. The Void Law spread across the surface of Xiaohei's terrifying dragon body, and the huge dragon body disappeared. Rumble! A huge dragon tail swept across the sky and slammed onto Sapphire Shore's back. Sapphire Shore snorted coldly. Countless lightning bolts gathered behind him and formed a lightning shield to block the terrifying dragon tail. When he turned around and tried to grab the huge dragon tail, the dragon tail had already disappeared into the void. This made Sapphire Shore gnash his teeth in anger. Although Zhuowen's cultivation and strength weren't a match for Sapphire Shore, Zhuowen, who had mastered the Void Law, was like a fish in water in the Nine Nether Heaven. His speed was extremely fast. Sapphire Shore couldn't attack Zhuowen at all. Every time Sapphire Shore wanted to leave, Zhuowen would use the Azure Dragon Hall to block in front of Sapphire Shore, not allowing him to leave. This kind of harassment made Sapphire Shore furious, but there was nothing he could do. After all, Zhuowen had mastered the Void Law. This kind of law was a divine tool for escaping. Even a Sun Sky Sacred Realm saint like him couldn't catch Zhuowen, especially in a place like Nine Nether Heaven that was filled with void space. Zhuowen had the advantage of time and place. The Blue Dragon Hall in the Dragon Nether Realm is finished. While Zhuowen was busy with Sapphire Shore, Long Tian had led close to 10,000 Ryuka disciples to the Dragon Nether Realm. Among these Ryuka disciples, there were many half-sages and invincible emperor lords. The experts in the Blue Dragon Hall were either dead or injured. Those left in the Dragon Nether Realm weren't very strong. At this moment, in the Blue Dragon Hall in the Dragon Nether Realm, Elder Raiwa looked at the 10,000 figures with an ugly expression. When the saints were fighting, Elder Raiwa had already entered the Dragon Nether Realm to hide, although he wanted to kill Zhuowen with his own hands. Unfortunately, Zhuowen had successfully broken through to the Saint Realm and directly advanced to the Scry Profound Saint Realm. This kid could kill a Scry Profound Saint like Qing Longzi before becoming a saint. Now that he had advanced to the Scry Profound Saint Realm, it wouldn't be difficult for him to kill a fragmented saint like Qing Longzi. Why does Zhuowen have such a terrifying force behind him? Raiwa felt bitter. If he had known earlier, he would have brought Yin Ruhua back to the Burning Heaven sect. Now it was too late for regrets. The entire Nine Nether Realm and Nine Nether Heaven have been sealed by Heavenly Insect. I don't even have the chance to inform the sect master. Damn it. Raiwa crushed the jade slip in his hand with hatred in his heart. He had just found out about the cooperation between Sapphire Shore and Heavenly Insect. He had also heard of the Heavenly Worm's reputation. This green jade shore actually cooperated with such a terrifying disaster. He was really too bold. Was he not afraid that he would be beaten back? Chapter 1504. The Blue Dragon Hall's Disaster. Take this dragon head blade. Remember, you must kill Elder Raiwa and everyone in the Blue Dragon Hall. As Long Tian held the dragon-headed saber in his hand, he recalled Zhuo Wen's voice transmission to him before he left. Therefore, his eyes were filled with murderous intent as he stared at Elder Raiwa. Perhaps sensing Long Tian's murderous intent, Elder Raiwa's pupils shrank. He coldly snorted and said, I am a member of the Burning Heaven sect. The enmity between the Ryuka and the Blue Dragon Hall has nothing to do with me. I don't want to interfere in this matter. But you must die. Long Tian didn't waste any time talking. He swung his right hand, and the dragon head broadsword flew out toward Elder Linghua. At the same time, his dragon soul surged out and surrounded the dragon head broadsword. It was as if it was supporting the dragon head broadsword as it flew forward. The 10 of you come with me and kill this Raiwa. The rest of you, enter the Blue Dragon Hall and kill everyone. Don't let even an ant go. The moment the dragon head blade blasted out, Long Tian shouted and selected 10 of the most powerful half-saints. They all rushed towards Raiwa. Damn it! Elder Raiwa angrily cursed and blasted out a fist. Flames filled the sky and heavily blasted the dragon head blade. However, what made his expression change slightly was that the dragon head blade was a profound saint artifact after all. Coupled with the support of Long Tian's dragon soul, it was extremely powerful. He was actually forced to retreat dozens of steps. Long Tian dashed over in an instant. Grabbing the hilt of his saber with his right hand, he appeared in front of spiritual fire in an instant. Slashing out with his saber, he slashed at spiritual fire's lower abdomen with the might of the dragon. Raiwa roared angrily. He raised his hands, and the law of fire transformed into 2 large blades that collided with the dragon head blades. However, to his horror, the might of the dragon head blades was too terrifying. The 2 flaming blades couldn't even withstand a single blow. Elder Linghua wanted to retreat, but the 10 half-step sages joined forces to block his retreat. Scram! Elder Raiwa angrily roared and pushed with both hands. Flames soared into the sky. Although the 10 half-saints were flustered and somewhat unable to resist, they were still able to delay Raiwa for a period of time. On the other hand, Long Tian was like a god descending from the heavens. This dragon head broadsword was simply prepared for dragon soul martial artists. With the dragon head broadsword in hand, Long Tian was like a hot knife through butter. His strength was incisive and vivid. For a moment, Elder Raiwa was completely suppressed by Long Tian. In addition, the 10 half-saints cooperated with him. Finally, after dozens of rounds of battle, Elder Raiwa's weakness was caught by Long Tian. The dragon head broadsword directly chopped off Elder Raiwa's head. Long Tian directly crushed Elder Raiwa's nascent soul. From then on, Elder Raiwa was completely dead. The moment Elder Raiwa was killed by Long Tian, shrill screams rang out in the Blue Dragon Hall. There were just too many Ryuka people. They rushed into the Blue Dragon Hall and began a massacre. Any martial artist within the range of the Blue Dragon Hall was killed without mercy. The Blue Dragon Hall is finished. The screams of the dragon spirit realm were extremely loud. Countless martial artists in the other spirit realms could hear them clearly. The shrill screams sent chills down many martial artists' spines. They knew that the Blue Dragon Hall was probably finished. Once all the disciples in the Blue Dragon Hall were killed, the Blue Dragon Hall would only exist in name. Ryuka Zhuowen, you deserve to die. Qing Yuan's eyes were scarlet red. This was especially the case when he heard the numerous miserable cries, which violently struck his heart. Sapphire sure really wanted to kill Zhuowen right now. However, Zhuowen relied on the Blue Dragon Hall to obstruct him. It was impossible for him to break through the obstruction and help the Blue Dragon Hall. It's your Blue Dragon Hall that deserves to die. What you did to our Ryuka back then, the Ryuka, will return it to you one by one. The void cracked as Zhuowen took a step forward and coldly stared at Sapphire Shore. I'm not playing with you anymore. You're going to die today too. At this point, Zhuowen's gaze suddenly turned cold. Then, he leaped up and stood at the top of the Blue Dragon Hall with his hands clasped together. 18th Mountain God, I, Zhuowen, am begging for your help now. I hope that you can lend me a hand and kill the enemy, Zhuowen softly chanted. When the last word came out of his mouth, a huge bald head began to condense at the peak of the 18th mountain, in the third layer of the Blue Dragon Hall. It's Zhuowen, that brat who's summoning me. It seems that he's in trouble outside. The bald head muttered in a low voice and continued. Well, since this kid summoned me, I'll go out. It's been a long time since I went out for a walk. I don't even know what it's like outside. With that, the bald head dissipated, and a bald man flew out from the peak. With a wave of his right hand, the 18th mountain that stretched across the sky began to tremble violently. Then, the mountains and seas were overturned. It directly soared into the sky and left the sea. The movement of the 18th mountain attracted the attention of the other 17 mountain gods in the upper realm. Old 18 left? Could it be that he went to the outside world? It's said that the Blue Dragon Hall has been refined by a brat. Previously, during the trial in the upper realm, that brat and old 18 were quite close. It seems that brat is in trouble, and summoned old 18 to help. Old 9 is right. The upper realm has a restriction set up by the Blue Dragon Taoist. Without the permission of the master of the Blue Dragon Hall, we can't go out at all. I'm really envious of old 18. He can actually go out for a walk. I haven't been out for a long time. I don't even know what the outside world is like. After the 18th mountain left the upper realm, many divine consciousnesses lingered in the upper realm and discussed. These divine consciousnesses were very powerful. Many ferocious beasts in the sea trembled, and did not dare to come out of the water. Stop arguing. Go back to your respective areas quietly. Suddenly, an even more terrifying divine consciousnesses swept across the entire upper realm. When this divine consciousnesses arrived, the entire sea surged with thousands of waves. Countless ferocious beasts flew into the sky, bleeding from their 7 orifices. Many ferocious beasts scattered when the tree fell. They all fled for their lives and did not dare to stay in this place. Boss is here. Let's go, let's go. When this enormous divine consciousnesses arrived, those chattering divine consciousnesses immediately dissipated. It was as if they were afraid of this divine consciousnesses. That brat is called Zhuowen, right? I wonder if he can help me successfully. However, I still have to carefully observe this brat. This enormous divine thought let out a sigh. Soon after, it gradually disappeared, and the surface of the sea regained its calmness. Rumble. In the outside world, Zhuowen had just finished praying when a huge mountain that connected the heavens and the earth ruthlessly smashed out from the Azure Dragon Hall. The direction it smashed towards was the direction of Green Jade Shore. Sapphire Shore clearly did not expect such a terrifying mountain to suddenly rush out from the Azure Dragon Hall. For a moment, he was a little flustered. Thump, 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 thump. Sapphire Shore waved his lightning scepter. Countless lightning surged and blocked the mountain. However, the mountain was too big. Sapphire Shore had no choice but to retreat dozens of steps as his blood boiled. This was the 18th mountain that had stood in the third layer of the Azure Dragon Hall for countless years. This mountain could pierce through the heavens and the earth. Its power could cover the sun and moon. When the mountain smashed down, the heavens and the earth collapsed. Rumble. The 18th mountain heavily landed in the 9th nether heaven. The majestic mountain seemed to pierce through the heavens. It looked extremely exaggerated. At the top of the mountain, there was a figure covered in golden light. Upon closer inspection, this figure was a bald, muscular man. There was a wheel of light behind his head, making him look like a Buddha. Haha, I'm finally out. After staying in the third layer of the 9th nether heaven for thousands of years, this old man can finally come out and see the outside world. The bald man laughed loudly. His voice was as loud as thunder, causing pain in the eardrums of many cultivators. Senior Lowe's. Zhuowen cupped his hands and smiled politely. Zhuowen, you summoned me. There should be something you need me to deal with, right? Just say it. I, Lowe's, will help you if I can. Lowe's stared at Zhuowen in an extremely forthright manner. Zhuowen's eyes lit up with joy. He smiled and said, Then many thanks to Senior Lowe's. Can you help me kill this old dog in front of me? As he spoke, Zhuowen pointed at Sapphire Shore. His eyes were filled with murderous intent. Loz turned his head and sized up Sapphire Shore. He nodded and said, "A saint of the Sun Sky Saint realm, and his foundation is very unstable. He's quite a good opponent. I'll help you kill him." Loz's relaxed tone made Sapphire Shore's expression turn ugly. The bald man in front of him did not have any saint power fluctuations on him, but he dared to say such big words. How could Sapphire Shore not be angry? However, Qing Yuan didn't dare to act blindly without thinking, because he knew that the enormous mountain that connected the heavens and the earth was thrown out by the bald big man's hand. What kind of great power did he need to be able to lift such a huge mountain? Senior Loz, there are many disciples of your faith in the 18th mountain, right? Can this be a weapon? Zhuowen was a little worried for the living beings in the 18th mountain. Could the living beings in the 18th mountain withstand Loz's ruthless throw? Haha, don't worry about that. Each of the 18 mountains has a powerful formation set up by the first mountain god. As long as the mountain doesn't collapse, the living beings inside will not be affected at all. Loz laughed and immediately leaped to the foot of the mountain. He grabbed the foot of the mountain with both hands and exerted force, causing the 18th mountain to fly up. Then Loz leaped into the air and kicked the mountainside. The huge mountain whistled through the air and headed straight for Sapphire Shore again. Damn it! Sapphire Shore's expression changed slightly. He struck out with the Thunder Scepter again and again. Countless thunderbolts gathered and formed a tough spider web in front of them. Rumble! However, the 18th mountain was too terrifying. The spider web formed by the thunderbolts was like paper and immediately shattered. Puffed! Sapphire Shore held the Thunder Scepter in front of him with both hands. The huge mountain swept over and smashed onto the surface of the Thunder Law. Immediately, Sapphire Shore spat out a mouthful of blood and flew backward. Your foundation in the Yangtian sacred stage is very unstable. You must have used some kind of secret technique to raise it. In my opinion, you are much weaker than a normal Yangtian sacred stage saint. The moment Sapphire Shore flew backward, Loz instantly appeared in front of him. He grinned and punched Sapphire Shore's chest. Then, there was the ear-piercing sound of bones cracking. Chapter 1505. SS Internal Strife. Boom boom boom. Loz was extremely fast. He was like a shadow as he punched out again and again. His punches were as fast as meteors. Sapphire Shore couldn't resist at all. Although he waved the Thunder Scepter and covered his body with the Law of Thunder, it was useless. The power of a greater Mastery Saint body was much stronger than Zhuowen's lesser Mastery Saint body. Moreover, Sapphire Shore's Young Sky Saint realm was forcefully raised using a secret technique. Therefore, Sapphire Shore's foundation was innately weaker than an ordinary Young Sky Saint realm cultivator. Bang bang bang. Sapphire Shore was like a rubber ball that was constantly being hit. He was sent flying back and forth in the void. Liao Xi's punches were very powerful. Every time a fist landed on his body, the intense pain caused Qing Yuan to involuntarily cry out in a low voice. His voice was extremely miserable. Boom! Loz clenched his hands into hammers and smashed them in front of Sapphire Shore again. Sapphire Shore's eyes were filled with shock. He directly held the Thunder Scepter in front of him. He could feel that Loz's attack was terrifying. If he didn't block it, his life would be in danger. Kacha! With one hammer, the surrounding space collapsed. Terrifying cracks began to appear on the surface of the Thunder Scepter that flickered with endless thunder. How is this possible? Looking at the spreading crack, Qing Yuan was shocked to the point that his mind was greatly shocked, and he couldn't help but cry out, "You're very noisy." Loz picked his ears and changed the direction of his punch. It landed on Sapphire Shore's abdomen. The latter's back bent, and he couldn't help but fly back. He spat out a mouthful of blood, and his face was as pale as snow. "Zhuowen boy, how do you plan to deal with this guy?" Liao Xi waved his right hand, and countless golden veins appeared on his arm. They shot out like golden threads, wrapping around the flying green jade shore, and pulling it back. He held it in his hand, and looked at Zhuowen. Hiss hiss hiss. From the moment Lowe's attacked to when Sapphire Shore was beaten like a dog, only 3 breaths of time had passed. In this short period of time, everyone witnessed the entire process of how Sapphire Shore had been beaten up from a high and mighty heavenly sage. Such a scene was too shocking. It shocked everyone to the point that they were speechless for a long time. They didn't even know how to describe their feelings at this moment. Zhuowen took a step forward and landed beside Lowe's. He stared indifferently at Sapphire Shore and said, "The Blue Dragon Hall is no more." Cough, cough, cough. Sapphire Shore coughed out a large mouthful of blood, and his chest heaved violently. He stared at Zhuowen with a complicated expression and said, "I didn't expect that I would still make a wrong move. This immortal saint weapon is really amazing. It can even summon such an existence. You should have known that such a day would come when you did such a thing to the Ryuka. You had to bear the consequences of your actions." "You can't bear the consequences of your actions," Zhuowen said indifferently. Sapphire Shore smiled and said, "Can't bear the consequences? Do you think that I, Sapphire Shore, can't bear the consequences? I thought that victory was in my hands. But I didn't expect you to have such a powerful trump card. I've lost. Since you've lost, you should be prepared to die." Zhuowen's eyes were indifferent. He stretched out his right hand, and the 9 stars 8 trigrams spear landed in his palm. He didn't waste any more words and pointed the spear at Sapphire Shore's forehead. "Haha. I will die, but I will make you pay the price." "Zhuowen, haha." Sapphire Shore suddenly roared to the sky and said, "Skyworm, I'm willing to become a part of you, but you have to promise to kill Zhuowen." Zhuowen's eyes changed and the 9 stars 8 trigrams spear pierced through the void at an extremely fast speed. He wanted to kill Sapphire Shore immediately. Whoosh! At the instant the tip of his spear was about to pierce into the space between Qing Yuan's brows, a figure suddenly flew out, and a sharp whistle exploded out as it fiercely collided with Zhuowen's body. Zhuowen's expression changed slightly. The speed of this figure was too fast, and the angle was too accurate. It was heading straight for him. If he were to continue attacking Qing Yuan, he would definitely be hit by it. Zhuowen had no choice but to change the direction of his spear and thrust it at the figure that was rushing toward him. "Junior, get lost. How dare you point your spear at me?" Just as Zhuowen's spear momentum changed, a loud shout was heard. The person who flew backward was none other than Chao Rong of the Primal Chaos Temple. At this moment, Chao Rong was in a slightly sorry state as he flew straight toward Zhuowen. When he saw Zhuowen's spear momentum pointing at him, he couldn't help but shout and throw out his right palm. Bang! The spear momentum and the palm momentum collided, and the surrounding space collapsed. Zhuowen groaned and then retreated hundreds of steps, the blood and qi in his body boiling. Fortunately, he had a small success saint body, and his physique was tough and indomitable. He didn't suffer any serious injuries, but he did suffer some internal injuries. There was no doubt that Chao Rong didn't hold back in that attack. If other profound sages had taken that attack head-on, they would have been directly destroyed. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. While Zhuowen was retreating because of Chao Rong, countless black tentacles rushed toward Lowe's. What the hell is this?" Lowe's shouted in a low voice, and the power of his large success saint body erupted. He waved his right palm, and the black tentacles that were rushing toward him were all shattered. However, there were too many tentacles. The moment Lowe's smashed the tentacles in front of him, another group of tentacles suddenly rushed toward him from the other side. However, the target of these tentacles wasn't Lowe's, but the Sapphire Shore in Lowe's hand. Lowe's didn't pay attention for a moment, and the tentacles drilled through the air. The Sapphire Shore was directly captured by these tentacles. "Damn it! Come back!" Liao Si roared angrily. He stepped on the void and shot out at a speed so fast that it was dazzling. Whoosh! 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 However, a black shadow suddenly landed in front of Lowe's and punched out. Countless tentacles spread out. Lowe's was not afraid and also punched out. The two fists collided, and then a terrifying airwave erupted. Then, Lowe's couldn't help but retreat thousands of feet. The black shadow frowned slightly, and also retreated thousands of feet. What is that? Lowe's stared at the black shadow in front of him, with a serious expression. He didn't expect that other than the other mountain gods in the third heaven, there would be other creatures whose physical bodies could reach such a terrifying level. In the confrontation just now, he had been at a disadvantage. This black shadow was naturally Skyworm. He glanced at Lowe's and immediately landed beside Sapphire Shore. He grinned and said, "Hall Master Qing, are you finally going to completely liberate me?" Sapphire Shore's eyes were full of murderous intent. He said, "I can cancel the contract we signed, but you have to help me kill Zhuowen and wipe out all the Ryuka remnants." At this moment, Sapphire Shore's bones were almost all shattered. Lowe's fist power was too terrifying. Even if a heavenly saint's body was strong enough, it still couldn't resist the brute force of Lowe's great completion divine body. Sapphire Shore knew that in his current state, he didn't know how long it would take for him to recover. He could only rely on Skyworm now. Of course, as long as Hall Master Qing becomes a part of me, my strength will break through the shackles and reach a new level. Also, I promise that I won't erase your consciousness. You will become a part of me, as an independent consciousness. Skyworm laughed, and there was a hint of greed in his dark eyes. Sapphire Shore was a heavenly saint elite. If he swallowed such an elite, it would be obvious to him. Sapphire Shore was far more valuable than the previous 11 heavenly saints. Let's begin. At this moment, Sapphire Shore's eyes were already blinded by hatred. The Blue Dragon Hall was destroyed, and his heart was dead. On top of that, he was beaten up so badly by Lowe's. He knew that he had no other choice. "Don't worry. I will help you reach the peak and avenge you." Skyworm laughed loudly. Countless tentacles swept over and instantly drowned Sapphire Shore. The latter didn't resist at all. Skyworm has swallowed Sapphire Shore. Damn it, I'm afraid this darn thing's strength will increase again. By then, none of us here will be a match for this darn thing. Chao Rong's expression changed. He had fought with Skyworm just now, but he was at a disadvantage. Now that Skyworm had swallowed a heavenly saint elite like Sapphire Shore again, its strength would become even more terrifying. Even Chao Rong felt his heart tremble. "Junior, this is all your fault. If you hadn't provoked Sapphire Shore, he wouldn't have let Skyworm swallow him. It's already difficult for us to deal with Skyworm now." Chao Rong suddenly turned his head and stared coldly at Zhuowen. His tone was extremely unfriendly. Seeing Chao Rong's attitude, Zhuowen's eyes narrowed. Then he said gloomily, "Lord Chao Rong, what do you mean? I fought with Sapphire Shore. Do you want me to spare his life?" "Humph. Junior, no matter how you quibble, it's useless. Since you've committed this sin, you'll have to bear the consequences. Right now, I'm the strongest here. Let me refine this immortal sacred artifact. I'll deal with this heavenly worm." Chao Rong suddenly pointed at the Azure Dragon Hall not far away and continued, "Only I can unleash most of the power of this immortal saint artifact. This is the only choice now." Hearing this, Zhuowen's eyes narrowed into slits. He sneered and said, "Lord Chao Rong, do you mean that I'll give this immortal saint artifact to you now? Do you have any other choice now? You're just a profound saint. How much power can you unleash from this immortal saint artifact?" Chao Rong said coldly. Zhuowen smiled faintly and said, "Lord Chao Rong doesn't need to worry about this. I'll deal with it myself." "You're courting death. How dare you disobey my orders?" Chao Rong was furious. He raised his right palm, and terrifying saint energy condensed. He suddenly pressed down on Zhuowen. He actually planned to kill Zhuowen. Boom! The moment Chao Rong's palm fell, Lowe's blocked in front of Zhuowen and punched out. Two terrifying forces swirled in the air. Then, Chao Rong snorted and took a few steps back. He stared at Lowe's in surprise. Because he had been fighting Skyworm, he didn't notice the battle between Lowe's and Sapphire Shore. He ignored Lowe's existence from the beginning. "Lord Chao Rong, you want to snatch the immortal saint artifact? Is this how your primal chaos temple does things?" Zhuowen said with a gloomy look. Chao Rong frowned. He didn't expect Zhuowen to have such a powerful helper. He just snorted and said, "Of course not. Since you can unleash the true power of this immortal saint artifact, I won't say anything." Chapter 1506. Bone spikes fill the sky. Chao Rong's tone changed extremely quickly. She did not feel embarrassed at all. However, this made Zhuowen sneer in his heart. Zhuowen was no fool. He knew that a celestial saint artifact was too precious. Even Chao Rong, a member of the Primal Chaos Temple, was no exception. She wanted to snatch the Azure Dragon Hall from him. However, now was not the time to be calculative. Chao Rong's strength was not ordinary. She was in the Sun Sky Saint realm. Moreover, as a member of the Primal Chaos Temple, she most likely had many trump cards. Gulp. Gulp. All of a sudden, a strange voice rang out from the front. The heavenly insect had already completely devoured the green jade shore. The heavenly insect, who had transformed into Mu Feng, raised his head towards the sky and laughed heartily. In the next moment, countless black tentacles erupted from his body. More and more black tentacles appeared. They almost covered half of the 9 underworld sky. The densely packed tentacles were too terrifying. They were like an endless black rain that poured down. Then, these black tentacles began to pulsate like veins. They gathered together and formed a huge beast. This huge beast was extremely strange. It had a human face and an insect body. Both sides of its body were densely packed with thin legs. These thin legs were compared to the heavenly insect's huge body. Just one of its thin legs was more than 10 feet thick. It was like a huge stone pillar. The insect's body was covered with hard scales. On the middle of its back, there were many bone spikes that pierced the sky. The bone spikes extended from its neck all the way to its tail. It looked extremely strange and terrifying. The heavenly insect clone has transformed. This form is extremely similar to the original body. After the green jade shore was absorbed by the heavenly worm, the green abyss evil dragon also directly dissipated. Little Black recovered its small black dog form and landed on Zhuowen's shoulder. At this moment, its eyes were looking at the giant worm in the sky as it solemnly said. Only Yanji, Zhao Jun, and the others faced the 5-clawed golden dragon. They were also annihilated by Xiao Hei's mighty power. Yanji, Zhao Jun, and the other saints landed not far behind Zhuowen. They stared at the squirming heavenly insect in shock. This heavenly insect's aura is so powerful. It is much stronger than before, Yanji muttered. Even Lowe's, who was standing beside Zhuowen, revealed a grave expression. He said, "What exactly is this heavenly worm? Now this damn thing's aura has already reached the Sky Saint realm. Its strength is dozens of times stronger than before." Sky Sacred Realm? Chao Rong and the others were shocked when they heard this. The Sky Saint stage was similar to the Mysterious Saint stage, and it was also divided into 4 stages. They were the Yin Heaven Saint stage, the Yang Heaven Saint stage, the Sky Saint stage, and the Heaven Defying Saint stage. Among them, the Sky Saint stage was the 3rd Sky Saint stage in the Sky Saint stage. Those who could reach the Sky Saint stage were all heroes of a region. Such an existence had never appeared in the Eastern lands in the past 10,000 years. Only the distant Middle lands would have such a terrifying expert. One had to know that even the sect master of the Burning Heaven sect, Zhou Tianzong, and Chao Rong, who was sent by the Primal Chaos Temple, were only in the Yang Heaven Saint stage. A saint in the Yang Heaven Saint stage already stood at the peak of the Eastern lands and Southern Barbarian lands. The Sky Saint stage was basically a legendary existence in these 2 regions. In other words, it was difficult to see a Sky Saint stage saint in other regions, except for the Middle lands. Damn it! I let the heavenly insect devour Sapphire Shore, and let his strength transform into the Sky Saint stage. This is really troublesome, Chao Rong cursed in a low voice. Although the Sky Saint stage and the Yang Heaven Saint stage were only 1 stage apart, the difference in strength was as huge as a chasm. In other words, in the Sky Saint stage, every step forward would cause a tremendous change in strength. This was also why Sapphire Shore and Yanji had felt fear when Zhou Tianzong appeared in the 9th Netherworld realm as a Yang Heaven Saint stage expert. The 2 of them seemed to only be 1 stage apart. But if they really fought, Zhou Tianzong could completely defeat Yanji and Sapphire Shore in a few moves. Even if the 2 of them worked together, they wouldn't be able to last long against Zhou Tianzong. Zhuowen, go test the heavenly insect's strength. I'll support you from behind, Chao Rong glanced at Zhuowen and ordered indifferently. Zhuowen's eyes narrowed into slits when he heard this. Is Chao Rong really using me as a tool? He actually wanted him to test the heavenly insect's strength? Lord Chao Rong, I'm not strong enough. It's better if you go test it. I'll support you from behind, Zhuowen said indifferently. What did you say? You dare to disobey my orders? Chao Rong flew into a rage and stared at Zhuowen with a ferocious expression. Disobeying your orders? I'm not your subordinate. What right do you have to order me around? Zhuowen said coldly. Originally, Zhuowen didn't care about Chao Rong's previous matters because of the Chaos Temple. Now that Chao Rong had taken an inch and wanted a mile, it was no wonder that Zhuowen was furious. You! How dare you! Chao Rong screamed angrily, but he didn't attack in the end, as he was afraid of Lowe's beside Zhuowen. Ha ha ha! What are you fighting for? Today, whether it's you, Chao Rong, Zhuowen, or the entire 9th Netherworld realm, all of you will die and become my nourishment. An insolent laughter rang out. The terrifying heavenly insect moved. It twisted its gigantic body, and the malevolent bone spikes on its back pierced through the void. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Instantly, with the heavenly insect as the center, countless bone spikes spread out in all directions of the 9th Netherworld realm. These bone spikes shot up into the sky, each of them tens of thousands of feet long and hundreds of feet thick. Quickly enter the Azure Dragon Hall. Zhuowen's expression changed slightly as he looked at the bone spikes that were continuously extending towards him. He hurriedly retreated and at the same time opened the door of the Azure Dragon Hall and took Yanji, Zhao Jun and the rest into the Azure Dragon Hall. At the same time, Zhuowen also retreated. He could feel that the bone spikes were unusual. Whoosh! Whoosh! At this moment, Long Tian had already led the Ryuka disciples out of the Dragon Netherworld realm. Zhuowen roared angrily and took Long Tian and the rest of the Ryuka disciples into the Azure Dragon Hall. After taking Long Tian and the rest of the Ryuka disciples, Zhuowen planned to retreat towards the divine Netherworld realm. Suddenly, a strong wind swept over and slammed into Zhuowen's back. Puchi! Zhuowen spat out a mouthful of blood and stared in disbelief at Chao Rong, who was laughing behind him. Arrogant brat, you actually dare to disregard my words. You deserve to die. I'll take your Azure Dragon Palace. A cold smile rose from the corners of Chao Rong's mouth. Zhuowen, on the other hand, was sent flying backwards by his attack, flying towards the bone spike that was rushing towards him. Despicable. Lowe's face changed slightly. Looking at Zhuowen flying towards the bone spikes, he gritted his teeth and gave chase. Boom! 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 Countless bone spikes pierced through the void like the sharpest blades that could pierce through anything. Open! Zhuowen stabilized his body. Coincidentally, a thick bone spike pierced towards him. Zhuowen's face changed slightly, and he stepped into the void. However, when Zhuowen entered the void, his face turned ugly. He discovered that the bone spikes were very strange. They could pierce through the void. The void passage was almost completely blocked by the bone spikes. In other words, the bone spikes had sealed the surrounding void. Zhuowen could not use the void law in this area. Whoosh! 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 Numerous bone spikes shot towards Zhuowen from the void passage, forcing Zhuowen to immediately retreat from the void passage. However, the moment he retreated from the void, several more bone spikes shot towards him. Zhuowen dodged sideways, but the bone spikes were too fast. One of the bone spikes brushed past his shoulder blade and pierced through it. What terrifying power! My saint body is actually unable to withstand a single blow from these bone spikes. It's like a piece of paper. Zhuowen hurriedly dodged as he clutched his injured shoulder. His expression was extremely unsightly. These bone spikes were too sharp. If his vital points were pierced by these bone spikes, he would probably die on the spot. The power of the Empyrean Sacred Realm is so terrifying. Isn't it much stronger than Chao Rong? Zhuowen was horrified. Boom! 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 While Zhuowen was dodging the bone spikes with difficulty, Lowe's descended from the sky. He held the 18th mountain in his right hand and waved it out. The 18th mountain was extremely vast and terrifying. Wherever it passed, the indestructible bone spikes would be pushed back. Zhuowen, let's go. Lo's instantly descended beside Zhuowen and grabbed Zhuowen's right hand. He lifted Zhuowen up and immediately jumped into the air to escape from the bone spikes. Damn it, so many bone spikes. Not long after they escaped, Liao Si and Zhuowen discovered with unsightly expressions that hundreds of bone spikes had suddenly rushed towards them from behind, flying towards them in a densely packed manner. 18th Mountain and Sea's End. Lo's roared angrily. His right hand formed a seal and landed on the mountainside of the 18th mountain. The huge mountain actually grew crazily again. It almost stretched across the horizon and was hundreds of thousands of feet tall. It blocked behind the two of them. Ding, ding, ding. The sound of metal clashing could be heard. Hundreds of bone spikes rushed over and bombarded the surface of the mountain, causing it to tremble violently. Go! Lo shouted. Zhuowen didn't hesitate and immediately used the void law to escape into the void and disappear from the range of the bone spikes. When they reappeared, they were already far away from the range of the bone spikes. Return! Lo's waved his right hand, and the 18th mountain returned to its original size. It buzzed and rushed over, landing not far in front of him. Looking at the mountain in front of him that was riddled with holes, Lo's face was a little gloomy. He didn't expect these bone spikes to be so terrifying that they actually caused some damage to his 18th mountain. Chao Rong, you deserve to die. Zhuowen's gaze quickly fell on Chao Rong not far away. He roared angrily and rushed towards Chao Rong like an enraged tiger. At this moment, Chao Rong was trying to refine the Azure Dragon Hall. When he saw Zhuowen and Lo safely escape from the bone spikes, he immediately revealed a trace of surprise. Azure Dragon's might. The moment he rushed out, Zhuowen formed the Azure Dragon seal with both hands. Immediately, a terrifying pressure surged out of the Azure Dragon Hall. This pressure was so terrifying that it almost condensed into an extremely huge pale dragon in the air. Roar! The pale dragon swooped down and attacked Chao Rong. Chapter 1507. Holy Treasure Zhuowen. You are very bold. I am a member of the Primal Chaos Temple. How dare you attack me? This is blasphemy to the Primal Chaos Temple. Chao Rong's face was gloomy. 99 dazzling suns appeared around him again. The fiery aura on their surface gathered into a powerful aura. Boom! The 99 suns and the pale dragon collided. The sky and earth exploded, space collapsed and the stars moved. Then, Chao Rong retreated with an ugly expression. The dragon might that was released from the Azure Dragon Hall was a little beyond his expectations. Even he could not compete with it. Today, even if you are the emperor, I will beat you up until your mother can't recognize you. Zhuowen leaped up and landed on the roof of the Azure Dragon Hall. He stared at Chao Rong with murderous intent. He had never suffered such a great loss. If Lo's had not come in time, with his strength, he would not have been able to survive in the bone spike. Zhuowen, don't make a mistake. The Primal Chaos Temple is not something you can afford to offend. Now that the heavenly insect is strong, we have to work together. Otherwise, the heavenly insect will take advantage of us. It will not be worth it. Chao Rong tried to persuade Zhuowen. Zhuowen sneered. Chao Rong's actions were really disgusting. Previously, he had sneakily attacked Zhuowen and wanted to kill Zhuowen. Now that his plan had failed, he actually said such bullshit words about working together. This Chao Rong was really shameless. Senior Lo's beat him up. Beat him to death. Zhuowen could not be bothered with Chao Rong, who was trying to defend himself. He said to Lo's. Lo's grinned and said, even if you didn't say it, I would still beat this despicable person. If I don't beat this hypocrite up until his mother can't recognize him, I, Lo's, am the 18th mountain god. Whoosh! As soon as he finished speaking, Lo's waved his right hand, and the 18th mountain gradually shrunk. In the end, it turned into a 2 feet long and 5 feet thick staff. The surface of this long rod was full of bumps and hollows, as if it was a rod formed from natural rocks. It appeared extremely inconspicuous, but its surface contained strange symbols. This 18th mountain is really something. The mountain god can actually use the power of this vast mountain as he pleases. Xiao Hei said with a strange look in her eyes as she sat on his shoulder. Rumble. Lowe's pulled out his right hand, and the long staff suddenly smashed out. The long staff whistled as it tore through the air, creating a terrifying sound of wind. When the staff struck out, a mountain appeared. Above the attack of the staff, the image of a vast mountain appeared. At first glance, it looked extremely terrifying. Chao Rong's expression was somewhat gloomy. This strike from Lowe's gave him a very heavy feeling. This strike didn't seem fancy, but it was powerful and heavy. The pressure he was under was extremely heavy. Rumble. However, Chao Rong wasn't afraid. He raised his hands, and the 99 scorching suns flew out like countless hidden weapons. They smashed out one by one and landed on the staff, creating an ear-piercing explosion. Get lost, Lo shouted. He blocked with the long staff, and his attack suddenly changed. With the momentum of a storm, he struck out with the staff again and again. Every strike was able to shatter a scorching sun. Lo struck out 99 times in a breath's time. Countless shadows of the staff flashed, and the 99 scorching suns around Chao Rong exploded into countless rays of golden light. Chao Rong retreated continuously and shouted coldly, "Bastard, you forced me to do this." As he spoke, Chao Rong took out a scroll from his chest. The scroll was jade in color, and both sides of the scroll were enshrouded with dense immortal qi. The immortal qi surged and transformed into the cries of dragons and phoenixes. The dragons and phoenixes flew together and complemented each other. What is this scroll? The aura on it is so terrifying. Zhuowen looked at the scroll with a trace of surprise in his eyes. The aura on the scroll made him very wary. This is a Sky Saint Realm Saint treasure. It must have been nurtured by a Sky Saint Realm Saint for a long time. That's why it has such terrifying power. Because it has been nurtured by a Sky Saint Realm Saint for countless years, it probably contains a trace of that saint's saint essence. Once the saint essence is released, it's like a Sky Saint Realm Saint has personally come. It's extremely terrifying. While Zhuowen was in a daze, Xiao Hei shouted and stared at the scroll. A saint treasure wasn't a saint artifact. In other words, the scroll wasn't a powerful saint artifact. It was just an ordinary scroll. However, it had been nurtured by a Sky Saint Realm Saint for countless years, so it contained a trace of the Sky Saint Realm Saint's powerful saint essence. To put it bluntly, this trace of saint essence was the aura of a Sky Saint Realm Saint. When it was complete, it was enough to unleash the full power of a Sky Saint Realm Saint. Moreover, the saint essence in a saint treasure wasn't like a saint artifact. It couldn't be used indefinitely. After a certain number of uses, the saint treasure would become an ordinary item. It's like a Sky Saint Realm Saint has personally come? In other words, this scroll can completely deal with the sky insect. Hearing Xiao Hei's words, Zhuowen was shocked. The Sky Saint Realm was much more terrifying than the Sky Saint Realm. From the sky insect in the distance, it could be seen how terrifying the Sky Saint Realm was. Although Lowe's had a Grand Completion Saint body, his Grand Completion Saint body hadn't reached a certain level. His strength was at most comparable to the peak of the Sky Saint Realm. It was a bit difficult for him to deal with the Sky Saint Realm Saint. Therefore, when Chao Rong took out the scroll, Lowe's, who was holding the long rod, froze. He stared at the scroll in Chao Rong's hand with extreme fear. "I really didn't expect you to have a saint treasure in your hands," Zhuowen said coldly. Chao Rong sneered and said, "This scroll was originally used to deal with the sky insect, but now that you've forced me into a corner, I don't mind using it on you. The Primal Chaos Temple sent you to the Eastern Lands to deal with the sky insect, right? You actually overstepped your authority and wanted to use this to deal with me. If the sky insect takes advantage of this, you and I will both die," Zhuowen said coldly. Chao Rong's lips curled into a cold smile and continued. "With such a big commotion in the Eastern Lands, it's impossible for the Primal Chaos Temple to not know. The sky insect is just a clone. It's no threat to the Primal Chaos Temple. But now you, a lowly commoner of the Eastern Lands, dare to disobey my orders. After killing you, it won't be too late to deal with the sky insect." Hearing this, Zhuowen's face turned ugly. This Chao Rong was too despicable. He was sure that the primal chaos temple had given this sky saint realm saint treasure to Chao Rong not to deal with other people, but to deal with the sky insect. But this Chao Rong wanted to use this thing to deal with him for his own selfish reasons. It was really hateful. When Chao Rong and Zhuowen were in a deadlock, a figure slowly descended and stood between the two of them. I say, the two of you look over there. The sky insect is transforming again, and its strength should have increased by a lot. If we don't join forces to stop it now, even if you take out this broken scroll, you might not be able to deal with the sky insect. The person standing between the two of them was none other than the Great Divine Academy's eldest senior brother, Yang Yi. At this moment, Yang Yi's eyes were drowsy, and his posture was languid. He was completely undeterred by the terrifying aura of the scroll in Chao Rong's hand. Who do you think you are? A mere pure profound saint realm ant dares to block my path? Get lost if you know what's good for you, or die. Chao Rong was overbearing, and his eyes were filled with killing intent as he stared at Yang Yi in front of him. Zhuowen quietly stared at Yang Yi without saying anything. Yang Yi had always given him a mysterious feeling. Although Yang Yi's aura was only at the pure profound saint realm, he didn't know why, but he felt that Yang Yi wasn't simple. This feeling was a strange intuition. Haha, your temper is quite big. With such a big temper, be careful not to die suddenly. Yang Yi smiled, and his eyes slowly narrowed. A sharp sword-like light faintly leaked out, causing Chao Rong's body to stiffen. Chao Rong came back to his senses and revealed an angry expression. He was actually frightened by a mere pure profound Saint Realm Jr. This was absolutely shameful. Get the hell away from me. Due to his anger, Chao Rong blasted out a palm that contained the terrifying power of the sun. It seemed to swallow the sun and moon, and collapse the void world. Be careful, Zhuowen shouted. He took a step with his right foot, and the void law lingered around him as he escaped into the void, wanting to save Yang Yi. However, when the void law surged out and broke through the void, he found that the void around him had solidified, and he couldn't break through the void at all. You're just a little sun sky Saint Realm Jr. You dare to be so arrogant with the saint treasure of a sky Saint Realm saint? What a joke. When Zhuowen's figure froze in the air, a mighty voice that sounded like muffled thunder exploded in his ears. It shook his eardrums and caused them to hiss in pain. Soon after, Zhuowen was shocked to discover that when Chao Rong's palm landed a foot away from Yang Yi, it was as if time had stopped, stopping in the void. Void solidification? Looking at Chao Rong, who was frozen in the void, Zhuowen couldn't help but exclaim in his heart. As someone who comprehended the void law, how could he not recognize the void solidification technique? He also knew this kind of offensive technique that used the void law, but its power wasn't so strong that it could freeze a sky Saint Realm Saint on the spot. You shouldn't have attacked me with this palm. It's more suitable to attack Heavenly Insect. Yang Yi's eyes were indifferent. With a stomp of his right foot, the void around Chao Rong shattered and was annihilated. Then, the void on Heavenly Insect's back suddenly split open, and Chao Rong's figure appeared. His palm landed heavily on Heavenly Insect's back. Ah, damn it, how dare you sneak attack me? I'm going to kill you. Heavenly Insect was caught off guard and grimaced in pain from Chao Rong's palm. He roared angrily, and the bone spikes on his back shot out one after another, shooting towards Chao Rong's vital points like thousands of arrows. At the same time, Heavenly Insect's densely packed thin legs came from all directions, sealing off Chao Rong's escape route. There was almost nowhere for Chao Rong to escape. Bastard, what's going on? Chao Rong obviously didn't expect this kind of change, and fell into a daze for a moment. He was clearly in front of Zhuowen and Yang Yi a moment ago, and now he was on Heavenly Insect's back. This scene was simply too bizarre. Chapter 1508. Self-inflicted disaster. As the scroll opened, the cries of dragons and phoenixes soared into the sky. The images of dragons and phoenixes were as dense as raindrops as they scattered around Chao Rong. Boom, boom, boom. Countless bone spikes and slender legs danced in the air like hidden weapons as they landed on the defense of the dragons and phoenixes, resounding with clanging sounds. A vast and terrifying holy might sprinkled down, and an imposing figure walked out of the unfurled scroll. As the majestic phantom stepped out, the dragon and phoenix shadows bent down and landed at the phantom's feet. At this moment, it was as if the dragon and phoenix shadows were supporting the phantom as they stepped through the air. Rumble! The huge phantom suddenly waved its right hand, and the saint aura was vast and mighty, causing heaven and earth to collapse. As the palm slammed down, the bone spikes and slender legs were all annihilated into nothingness, and Tiangu retreated a few thousand feet in fear. A pair of blood-red eyes as big as copper bells stared at the scroll in Chao Rong's hand. A saint treasure nurtured by the sky saint level? Tiangu said in a low voice. Eldest senior brother? Zhuowen stared at the calm Yang Yi in front of him, his eyes full of surprise. The void solidification technique just now was simply too powerful and terrifying. It had already exceeded the scope of the profound sage realm. Even Chao Rong, who was in the sun-sky sacred realm, had been teleported out without anyone noticing. This required a profound comprehension of the laws of the void. Earlier, when Jianmu had teleported over and given him the 9 golden patterns of Saint Luck, he had suspected that Yang Yi might have the power of the void law. Now that an expert like Chao Rong had been teleported near Tiangu, this suspicion had become a reality. Junior brother Zhuowen, why don't we watch a good show on the square platform of the Divine Spectre realm? Yang Yi pointed at the square platform of the Divine Spectre realm and smiled. Zhuowen's eyes flashed. Although he had endless doubts in his heart, he knew that now was not the time to ask, so he finally nodded in agreement. Whoosh! With a wave of his sleeve, Zhuowen kept the Azure Dragon Palace into his spirit ring. Then, he brought Lowe's and followed behind Yang Yi, landing on the square platform where the Divine Spectre realm was located. At this moment, the square platform of the Divine Nether realm was already empty. Only Yang Yi stood alone at the edge of the square platform like a long sword. Yang Yi landed on one of the armchairs on the square stage and leaned lazily on it. He smiled at Zhuowen and said, Junior brother Zhuowen and this strong man, please take a seat. The show is about to begin. Take your time. Zhuowen and Lowe's looked at each other. Although they were puzzled, they still followed Yang Yi's instructions and sat at a seat not far away. I know you still have a lot of questions, but after this show is over, I will explain them to you. Yang Yi lazily sat on the armchair, glancing at Zhuowen from the corner of his eyes as he said slowly. Hearing that, Zhuowen could only forcefully swallow the question he was about to ask. As for Liao Si, he was confused. After all, he didn't know Yang Yi, so he naturally didn't know anything about Yang Yi. However, Lowe's was extremely fearful of Yang Yi. He could feel the unusual aura coming from Yang Yi's body. Although the aura that Yang Yi revealed was only at the pure profound saint realm, Lowe's could feel a sense of threat coming from him. Moreover, this feeling was very strong. Normally speaking, only when facing an extremely terrifying enemy would one have this kind of feeling. Combined with Yang Yi's aura, which was not very strong, it gave Lowe's an extremely strange feeling. That Chao Rong fought the heavenly insect alone. He's really amazing. As expected of an expert from the Central Plains Chaos Temple, his strength is indeed terrifying, and his character is so noble. He dares to fight the heavenly insect alone for our 9 netherworld realm. Lord Chao Rong has the saint treasure of a sky saint realm saint. He should be able to completely eliminate the heavenly insect. I hope Lord Chao Rong can win. In the eyes of many creatures of the 9 netherworld realm, who did not know what was going on, could not help but sigh at Chao Rong's nobility. Many of them were grateful. When these words stopped in Chao Rong's ears, he almost spat out a mouthful of blood. He did not come out voluntarily, okay? He had no choice. Moreover, the heavenly insect's strength was too terrifying. It was already comparable to a supreme expert of the Sky Saint realm. Even if he had a saint treasure, it could not be used indefinitely. Therefore, at this moment, he was almost suppressed by the heavenly insect. The Chaos Temple actually gave you the saint treasure of a Sky Saint realm saint. It seems like you came with the mentality of killing me. The heavenly insect's powerful voice exploded in the 9 netherworld sky. Its red eyes were filled with brutality as it stared at Chao Rong. The heavenly insect had a deep hatred for everyone from the Chaos Temple, especially when it saw Chao Rong bring a saint treasure. This made the heavenly insect even more determined to kill Chao Rong. If Sapphire Shore had not taken the initiative to merge his power into the heavenly insect's body, the heavenly insect would not have been able to transform and raise its strength to the Sky Saint realm. If Chao Rong took out the saint treasure before it transformed, the heavenly insect might have been suppressed directly. Therefore, the heavenly insect planned to kill Chao Rong as soon as possible. As for Zhuowen, it could take its time to deal with him. After all, the entire 9 Netherworld realm and 9 Netherworld sky were sealed by him. No one could escape. Boom! Boom! The heavenly insect roared, and densely packed bone spikes poured out of the void, almost covering half of 9 Netherworld sky. Looking over, there were only densely packed bone spikes. Chao Rong's expression changed slightly, and surging saint power poured into the scroll. The scroll's surface exploded with a terrifying light, and the majestic shadow grew even larger. With a raise of its hand, the sky fell and the earth cracked. Boom! 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 The heavenly insect and the scroll's shadow fought, and the aftermath rippled like a rain of arrows, spreading across the entire 9 Netherworld sky. The 9 Netherworld realm, which existed on the 9 planets, trembled and swayed under the aftermath. The living beings in the Netherworld realm only felt that the world was collapsing, and that it was the end of the world. There were even weak living beings who knelt on the ground, praying for the gods in their hearts to protect them. On the square platform of the divine Netherworld, Zhuowen waved his sleeve, and a mighty force spread out, forming a sturdy light shield in front of the square platform. The aftermath of the battle did not affect Zhuowen and the others at all. As time passed, Chao Rong's expression became uglier and uglier. The light on the surface of the scroll in his hand became dimmer and dimmer, like a candle in the wind, about to be extinguished at any time. The majestic shadow formed above the scroll was no longer as mighty as before. Countless dimness appeared on its surface, and it was even somewhat transparent, as if it was about to disappear at any time. Zhuowen, the heavenly insect is a disaster for your 9 Netherworld realm. As people of the 9 Netherworld realm, you actually did not come to fight the enemy with me. Are you still human? Chao Rong's expression was ugly, and he could not help but roar at the people sitting on the square platform of the divine Netherworld realm. He was really afraid now. He knew that once the saint connotation released by the scroll disappeared, the scroll would become an ordinary object. At that time, there would really be nothing to protect him. Zhuowen leaned on the armchair and said slowly, Lord Chao Rong is unparalleled. A mere heavenly insect will not be a problem for Lord Chao Rong. We will only be in the way if we go over, so I will be bold enough to watch the show. Impudent. Chao Rong's face turned green with anger. Although Zhuowen's words were polite, the ridicule in them was too strong. Chao Rong was so angry that he almost spat out a mouthful of blood. Lord Chao Rong, I do not dare to be impudent. Lord Chao Rong, you are unparalleled in the world, and you are also a member of the Primal Chaos Temple. I am only from a poor background. How would I dare to offend you? It's just that in my opinion, the heavenly insect is really not a problem for Lord Chao Rong. I do not dare to go over and get in the way. Zhuowen was still leaning on the armchair. Unknowingly, he had taken out a teapot and teacups from his spirit ring. He poured 3 cups of tea each, picked up one of the cups, and quietly sipped the tea. His unperturbed appearance was simply too despicable. Not to mention Chao Rong, even Liao Si, who was beside him, wanted to teach Zhuowen a lesson. Clearly, Zhuowen was doing this on purpose. Everything that Chao Rong had done before had already caused Zhuowen to be filled with surging killing intent. On the other hand, Yang Yi gave Zhuowen an exaggerated thumbs up. Naturally, Chao Rong saw it very clearly. To him, this was simply adding fuel to the fire. Ah, is there no one in the 9th Netherworld realm? If the heavenly insect is not exterminated, your 9th Netherworld realm will also be finished. Seeing that the brilliance on the surface of the scroll was getting dimmer and dimmer, Chao Rong was desperate and could not help but shout loudly. If no one came to help him now, he would definitely die. Lord Chao Rong is a member of the Primal Chaos Temple, and the heavenly insect is the source of disaster. Let's help Lord Chao Rong together. Yes, that's right. Everyone has the right to kill the heavenly insect. Let's go together. Chao Rong's words were immediately echoed by many people. Many sectless rogue cultivators of the 9th Netherworld realm were stirred up and rushed out. Moreover, most of these rogue cultivators were half-sages, and the weakest was an invincible sovereign lord. Zhuowen could even see a few saints with relatively strong cultivation. This group of idiots. It's fine if they go to die, but are they planning to give nourishment to the heavenly insect? Looking at the many rogue cultivators who had rushed out, how could he not know what these rogue cultivators were planning? They were probably using the excuse of helping Chao Rong to establish a relationship with Chao Rong, so that they could enter the Primal Chaos Temple. The Primal Chaos Temple was a famous force in the Central Plains. Even in the remote Eastern Plains, many cultivators had heard of it. It could be seen how difficult it was to enter the Primal Chaos Temple. And to be able to enter the Primal Chaos Temple, one would undoubtedly have a boundless future. Becoming a profound sage, heavenly sage, or even a celestial sage would not be a dream. All of you get lost. Even Lord Chao Rong can't deal with the heavenly insect. You're just going to die if you go. Zhuowen suddenly jumped up, out of kindness, and in order to prevent the heavenly insect from growing stronger, Zhuowen finally decided to stop these rogue cultivators, who did not know the immensity of heaven and earth. Who do you think you are? The heavenly insect has already sealed the entire 9th Netherworld realm. Now the entire 9th Netherworld realm should be united against a common enemy and help Lord Chao Rong defeat the heavenly insect. But you're stopping us. Do you have some wild ambition? Or are you an accomplice of the heavenly insect? Chapter 1509. Hong Guang. Old man Zhuowen's eyes flashed with a sharp light. With a wave of his right hand, the terrifying saint energy turned into a huge golden palm. The golden palm shot out like a sharp arrow and instantly rushed into the countless rogue cultivators who had gathered at the edge of 9 Nether Heaven. Ah! A scream rang out. The golden palm pointed at a middle-aged man with a sinister gaze. At this moment, the middle-aged man's eyes were filled with horror. He did not expect Zhuowen to attack him directly. Open up! The middle-aged man shouted loudly. The law lingered around his body as his saint energy gushed out and condensed into a huge hand. Crack! However, when the two huge hands collided, the huge hand formed by the middle-aged man's saint energy instantly collapsed. The middle-aged man was pinched in the huge hand like a chick. Hecklers die. Zhuowen spat out these words and squeezed the middle-aged man. The middle-aged man groaned and was directly crushed into pieces. Hiss! Seeing Zhuowen's ruthless means, the rogue cultivators gasped and kept quiet out of fear. They had seen how terrifying Zhuowen's strength was in 9 Nether Heaven. This person had passed the saint tribulation, and his cultivation had advanced to the glimpse profound saint stage. His combat strength was comparable to a Een Sky Saint stage saint. Coupled with the celestial saint artifact in his hand, this person was absolutely terrifying. Ordinary saints were no match for this person at all. Scram if you don't want to die. Zhuowen's killing intent was awe-inspiring as he stared at the rogue cultivators in front of him. He knew that these rogue cultivators were hidden powerhouses in the various nether realms. They had kept a low profile in the various nether realms. Now that the 9 Nether realm had undergone a great change, these hidden powerhouses had finally come out. However, although these hidden powerhouses were strong enough, they could not be stronger than the Hall Master of the Blue Dragon Hall, Sapphire Shore. The middle-aged man who had heckled just now was a glimpse profound saint stage saint like Zhuowen. However, he could not withstand a single blow from Zhuowen. Junior, aren't you too arrogant? Suddenly, an inconspicuous figure walked out from the crowd of rogue cultivators. The figure was stooped and held a walking stick in his right hand. He was over 70 years old and was trembling as if he would fall at any moment. When this inconspicuous old man came out, the surrounding rogue cultivators quieted down. It's the Rainbow Light Old Man. Who would have thought that the Rainbow Light Old Man would still be alive after 3,000 years? 3,000 years ago, the Rainbow Light Old Man fought against the Hall Master of the Blue Dragon Hall, Sapphire Shore. In the end, he was defeated and disappeared. Who would have thought that he had hidden himself from the world for 3,000 years? 3,000 years ago, the Rainbow Light Old Man was an expert who competed with the Sapphire Shore for supremacy. Now that 3,000 years have passed, I'm afraid his cultivation base has deteriorated. Sounds of discussion rang out as the surrounding cultivators whispered to each other, their eyes filled with awe. Rainbow Light Old Man? Zhuowen narrowed his eyes as he stared at the old man, who was like a candle flickering in the wind. This old man was so old that he could enter a coffin at any moment. He was actually a peerless figure, who competed with the Sapphire Shore for supremacy 3,000 years ago. I don't need to tell you the dangers of the sky worm. It's not that I'm looking down on you, but the sky worm is too powerful. It's useless for you to go over. You'll only strengthen the sky worm, Zhuowen said indifferently. The Rainbow Light Old Man's eyes were deep as he said, Are you going to wait for the sky worm to kill Lord Chao Rong before devouring the countless living beings in the 9th Netherworld realm? Do you have a better idea? Yes, why wouldn't I? Zhuowen said slowly. How arrogant. Junior, get out of my way. Otherwise, don't blame me for being impolite. The Rainbow Light Old Man slammed his walking stick on the ground. A terrifying aura surged out from the Rainbow Light Old Man's body like a volcano erupting. Since that's the case, I'll have to beat you down before I can convince you. Zhuowen's eyes were cold as a crack appeared between his eyebrows. There the Buddha demon eye slowly opened. Golden light and black light intertwined, revealing a mysterious luster. The Buddha demon eye was inherited from the fighting Buddha demon saint. After the Buddha and demon clones broke through to the saint realm, they were formed into the Buddha demon eye. Among them, the Buddha's 9 kowtows and the demon's 10 perilous lands were inherited. When the two were combined, their power was extremely terrifying. Junior, you're just a glimpse saint. Although your combat strength is indeed extraordinary, a profound saint is still a profound saint. There's a huge gap between you and a heavenly saint. Today I'll teach you a good lesson. With that, a terrifying aura erupted from the Rainbow Light Old Man's body. At the same time, thousands of rainbow lights swept out from the void behind him, forming a long rainbow bridge. It was extremely majestic. The Rainbow Light Old Man has mastered the law of rainbow light. Judging from his aura, he should be in the Een Sky Saint realm. This kind of cultivation is enough to crush all profound saints. When the countless rainbow lights erupted and formed a long rainbow bridge in the void, many rogue cultivators in the surroundings retreated. Their pupils shrank, and they didn't dare to casually approach. Junior, I won't kill you. I'll only use 3 moves. If you can block them, this old man will immediately retreat. If you can't, this old man will also hold back. This time, I'm just teaching you a lesson. The Rainbow Light Old Man indifferently glanced at Zhuowen. He stretched out his skinny hand and suddenly pressed down. The countless rainbow bridges fell from the sky and smashed towards Zhuowen like meteors. This scene made many rogue cultivators shudder with fear. Their faces paled. The full-strength attack of a Een Sky Saint was indeed terrifying. It wasn't something that ordinary people could withstand. Zhuowen raised his head and stared at the falling rainbow bridges. The Buddha demon eye between his eyebrows flickered with golden and black light. The Buddha's 9 kowtows to the heavens. First kowtow to the heavens. Endless Buddha light rushed out of the Buddha demon eye, and a terrifying Buddha shadow appeared behind Zhuowen. This Buddha shadow squinted its eyes and put its right hand together. A huge halo appeared behind its head, emitting endless golden light like a scorching sun. The Buddha figure suddenly kowtowed to the sky, and a Buddha palm blasted out, facing the countless rainbow bridges that covered the sky and covered the earth. Boom! This knock seemed as if even the sky was about to collapse. The rainbow light bridge that covered the sky and covered the earth froze in the void, as if time had stopped. What? The Rainbow Light Old Man turned pale with fright. It was as if he had seen a ghost. His attack had been blocked just like that. You have some strength. The rainbow light old man became serious. He clenched his right hand again. An endless rainbow light rushed out of his body, forming even more rainbow bridges that crushed towards Zhuowen. Buddha kowtows 9 times to the heavens. The second kowtow envies the heavens. Zhuowen slowly chanted. The huge Buddha shadow kowtowed once again, and a supreme Buddha voice resounded throughout the world. It was so loud that even the deaf could hear it. The entire sky began to crack. Crack! Soon after, the densely packed rainbow light bridges collapsed into nothingness. The rainbow light old man let out a muffled groan and took a dozen steps back. His turbid old eyes were filled with both shock and fury. What? The rainbow light old man lost? Isn't that too fast? The surrounding people were in an uproar. The rogue cultivators who were looking forward to the rainbow light old man teaching Zhuowen a lesson were all stunned. Although the rainbow light old man had only mastered the law of rainbow light, he was still a saint of the Yin Sky Saint realm. His cultivation level was 1 level higher than Zhuowen's. How could he lose in this exchange? Heroes come from the young. Looks like I'm really old. The rainbow light old man seemed to have aged 10 years after stabilizing his body. He took a deep look at Zhuowen, sighed, and left 9 nether heaven. The moment the rainbow light old man left, the rogue cultivators who had gathered scattered like birds and beasts, not daring to stay in front of Zhuowen. After dismissing these rogue cultivators who wanted to curry favor with Chao Rong, Zhuowen returned to his seat on the square platform of the divine nether realm. Zhuowen, do you really have a way to deal with this sky worm? Loz asked curiously. This sky worm was indeed amazing. It was very powerful, and it seemed to have the terrifying ability to devour martial artists for its own use. It was an extremely troublesome thing. Yes, this kid does have a way to deal with the sky worm. Before Zhuowen could speak, Yang Yi spoke up. He stared at Zhuowen with a smile and continued. Junior brother Zhuowen, with your current arcane realm, it's not enough to unleash the power of the slaughter of the god of war. If possible, I can help you. As soon as these words came out, Zhuowen suddenly stood up and stared at Yang Yi. Vast saint might surrounded his body, as if he was on guard against Yang Yi at all times. Junior brother Zhuowen, don't be so nervous. I've said that I'll tell you the truth when the time comes. Anyway, all you need to know now is that you and I are not enemies, Yang Yi said unhurriedly. Zhuowen's eyes flashed, and he nodded skeptically. Then he sat down on his seat. He really could not figure out how Yang Yi knew that he had the slaughter of the god of war. This slaughter of the god of war was naturally given to him by the Baifeng. It had a great restraining effect on the skyworm, and the power of the slaughter of the god of war was also very terrifying. However, the slaughter of the god of war was quite mysterious. Zhuowen had been comprehending it before, so he had not used it. Other than the Baifeng and him, there should not be a third person who knew that he had the slaughter of the god of war. But how could he not be surprised when Yang Yi suddenly spoke about the slaughter of the god of war? However, when he thought of all the things that Yang Yi had done before, he also knew that Yang Yi had no intention of harming him. Instead, he was helping him. Who are you? Zhuowen stared at Yang Yi and asked cautiously. You'll find out soon. The good show is about to end. Don't miss it. Yang Yi smiled and pointed at the battle in the center of 9 Serenities heaven. At this moment, the sky worm was becoming more and more violent. Every strike was able to break through the 9 Serenities small worlds. On the other hand, Chao Rong was extremely miserable. The saint connotation in the scroll was almost exhausted, and the illusory image of the sky sage had also become transparent, as if it would collapse at any time. Zhuowen, you little bastard. I, Chao Rong, will not let you go even if I become a ghost. When the illusory figure was finally blasted into smithereens by the heavenly worm, Chao Rong let out an unwilling roar towards the sky. The scroll in his hand also shattered into pieces, and countless bone spikes pierced through his body. Puffed. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference. As it's the primary source of revenue, that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.